16 seconds ago, it was tied. And they had the ball. Let's go to Jerry Punch. Doc?
Thanks, Mike. Hello, everybody. Folks, last Sunday morning when Jared Parker woke up, he was a recruiting coordinator and wide receivers coach. But by noon, he was the interim head coach at Purdue. So he said, suddenly, my whole world changed. The last 7 days have been quite a blur. He said, but when I asked him what you can do today that can make a difference, he said, I told our kids, we just got to have fun and turn it loose. We're going to do some bizarre things, some unusual things, but we got to have fun and try to find a way to make a difference.
Jerry, the fun part is still pending. Jones. Good hard run, picks up about 4.
And the one thing you can't do if you're Jared Parker right now is flinch on your message. When we talked to him this week, he was very clear. We want to energize these young men. We want to give the seniors a chance. They come out, they run a reverse that blows up in their face. Now you can't pull all of the trick stuff. You can't pull all of the fun stuff you built out of that playbook. You have to stick to your message, which is we're going to have some fun. We're going to let it loose.
Empty backfield for Blau. Short set throws. That was nearly intercepted by Nathan Gary. He jumped the route, had a great look at it, and if the pass wasn't thrown so short, he'd have had the pick.
Remember, this defense last year, the pass defense for Nebraska that Blau played, and that looked like a route, an off route there by the receiver. But this is a totally different secondary than what Purdue faced last year. So much better, so much more diverse, play some different coverages, much different than what Blau saw in 2015.
We saw 6 guys last week against Indiana who could play in that secondary. The pass goes to Cameron Posey, the senior out of Boca Raton, Florida. They'll pick up 15 and the first down of the game for the Boilermakers.
Well, and Bryce Hopkins, a big tight end. The tight ends are getting more run now for Purdue with Dominique Young, probably the best receiver for Purdue, out for the last 3 weeks with a knee injury. But Hopkins, a big guy at 6'5", 239, cleared out that side. It was not an illegal clear out, but he certainly cleared out the space.
Flanker around will only go for a couple of yards.
And that first down, Mike, was a big deal for Purdue. Because you mentioned you're down 7 after 16 seconds and having the ball. And if you don't pick up that first down, interim head coach Jared Parker and his bunch are punting that ball away. And I just don't know that they have the defense for Purdue to slow down Nebraska at all. They're going to have to do everything they can to keep the ball, including going for it on 4th down quite a bit, maybe even on their side of the field occasionally.
Play action by Blau. He wants to go deep on the post and caught by Bilal Marshall. What a grab. 45 yards.
And a terrific throw by Blau. This is a long throw, and if there's one part of Blau's game when I was studying him that was a little off, was his long throws seemed to be underneath. This was perfect. Now the question is catch, no catch. This is the hardest thing for officials to get right and to review. Did that ball, did he have control? The crowd is booing a little bit because they saw the ball hit the ground. I would be surprised if this isn't stopped and reviewed. It looked like he caught it. I'm not 100% sure he did.
They get off the snap. Jones inside the 5, down to the 3.
Let's go back. Catch, no catch. Does Bilal Marshall control? It can touch the ground, but does he control it through the catch? Through the fall. Ooh. It's close. Remember, the ball can touch the ground if he's not lost control of it while it touches the ground. I don't think that they would have overturned that. I personally would have liked to have seen it reviewed. I do think it was a catch, however.
2nd and goal. Jones runs into a wall led by Dedrick Young, the weak side linebacker.
Well, Terry Malone, the offensive coordinator in his first year calling plays for Purdue. He's been working on getting some of the tight ends. Cole Herdman and I mentioned Bryson Hopkins are 2 guys with big bodies that if you're going to get a throw in here off of a run, Purdue is not a very powerful run team. But on 3rd and 2, this is a run or pass type of down. So look for your tight ends. They're both lined up on this side in the pass game.
And they've got their biggest back in, number 36, Richie Worship. Power runner Worship straight up the middle, got to the 1 before he's driven back.
Now you have to go for it here if you're Purdue. Your defense,
you would think.
Yeah, your defense is not going to be able to stop the run. They're one of the worst run defenses in the country. They're missing their best defensive lineman, Jake Rapogel, who's out. Again this week. So you have to go for this. I think you need 7 here. And Blau is an athletic quarterback. He can move. He can get out of the pocket. I would want Blau moving, not standing on point to throw this or run it.
Worship is still in there. Now he's offset. The 245-pound tailback. Worship trying to go outside. They fake to him. Throw to the end zone. Touchdown. D'Angelo Yancey. Nice throw by Blau. Nice fake.
And it was one-on-one against the best corner. Chris Jones was one-on-one against D'Angelo Yancey on that side. Yancey came down inside, and as Blau made that terrific fake, Mike, he rolled to that side. Good call by Terry Malone, the offense coordinator, and a good job by an interim head coach knowing we're on the road against a team we're not going to stop. We need 7, not 3.
And their one strength is their passing game. They're 19th in the country. They produce more than 300 yards a game through the air. The run, they're ranked 106th. J.D. Dellinger is on for the point after. And Purdue has come back with an exceptional drive under exceptional circumstances to tie this ball game at 7-7.
And
Blau on the move. Perfect pass to D'Angelo Yancey. It's better being a head coach right now, isn't it?
After the turnover on the opening play, Purdue quarterback David Blau went up and down the bench, patting people on the helmet, saying, "We got this, guys, we got this." Jumping up and down as if he had thrown a touchdown pass. Positive energy. They get the football back, and yes, they go down the field and score. Gotta love the excitement on the Purdue sideline.
Thanks, Doc. Especially after the interception on the first play of the game, and then Armstrong walks in for a score. You just had to think, uh-oh. And this kick, bad error on special teams, goes out of bounds. That'll bring it all the way out to the 35-yard line. And great field position for Nebraska. Tommy Armstrong has his name all over the Nebraska record book. The all-time Cornhusker leader in both passing yards with more than 8,000 and touchdowns with 63. This is the fifth-year senior's 40 to start. That's second all-time at Nebraska behind Taylor Martinez. His 28 wins are 6th all-time for the Cornhuskers.
And we mentioned in that first drive, he's been battling a left ankle injury, bunch of injuries. Nick Gates, the left tackle, David Neville, the right tackle, both trying to give it a go today with ankle injuries as well.
Armstrong to throw, has that rifle arm and connects with Brandon Riley.
When we had the game last week against Indiana, a lot of the fans felt like it was Tommy Armstrong 2015 version who played last week. A lot of throws off his back foot, especially long ones. But when this guy wants to throw it, he's as an impressive a thrower. You can see him get his weight transfer. The ball just flies out of his hand. If he has good technique, which he doesn't always have, he can be very good.
It's also a threat to break fingers like Brett Favre was. That ball whistles when it gets there. Terrell Newby off the left side. Nothing there.
But I just was mentioning the injuries for Nebraska. Remember, Jordan Westerkamp, maybe their best receiver, is still out with a back injury. Ethan Carter, the tight end, one of their best athletes and a real weapon on offense, is out still with an elbow injury. So this is a group that undefeated, and everyone in the country wondering if Mike Riley's team's in the top 10. He told us yesterday, I really don't care because we're getting better. We're playing better every week. It doesn't matter.
Where we are at the end of the year. It's the only ranking that matters. They hope to get Westerkamp back next week when they play Wisconsin. Armstrong short set, throws to the tight end, Sam Cotton, who had a really good game a week ago, and he battles for extra yard. Navon Mosley finally made the stop. Going to be about a football length of another first down.
Of course, Sam Cotton's dad, Barney, a longtime coach here at Nebraska, and he's taking over for Ethan Carter. And in talking with Tommy Armstrong yesterday, you can tell Armstrong feels more comfortable as a quarterback. He was breaking down the receivers, the different types of routes they run, and he spent a lot of time talking about Sam Cotton versus Ethan Carter and how he had to throw differently.
Purdue simply can't get off the field on third down. They are the worst in the entire country out of 128 FBS teams on third down conversions. And there's another.
You jinxed him, Mike.
I don't think you could jinx that stat.
You know, and in talking to Jared Parker, when he talked about all of the things a head coach has to do, that even though you prepare for it, and Jared Parker made it very clear he wants to be a head coach. It's a dream of his, the interim head coach at Purdue. But when we brought up the third down conversions, he goes, yeah, I didn't really know about that a week ago, but now I know about that, and yes, we will try to address it. Problem is, they don't have Jake Replogle right now, their best defensive lineman, maybe their best defensive player, at home with headaches. So that makes it even worse for Purdue.
Newby, what a cut. This kid is so quick. Picks up another first down. Marcus Bailey, one of their best tacklers from his weak side linebacker spot, got out there and finally dragged him down. But we saw Newby last week. He just makes people miss completely.
He really does have that ability to not just change direction quickly, but gain a step, so that when he freezes someone, he's also gaining the edge. And they have ridden this guy in the fourth quarter the last 2 weeks against Illinois and Indiana. He was the reason, Newby, in my opinion, that they were able to seal those wins.
Newby again. Picks up about 4.
Well, let's take a look at Terrell Newby and what he can do with the ball. Watch this cut and how quickly he comes off the cut of his offensive lineman and then right back to the left. That's called keeping it tight to your block, but the cut to set it up is amazing. But then he also just has the playing ability. Is the hole there? There's no reason to cut. A lot of times with guys with that cutting ability won't be that patient, and this guy has it both. He's a really terrific back.
Out of the backfield, Mikhail Wilbon. They use 4 I-backs trying to find a hot hand.
You know, and you have to mention, of course, this fan base was probably ready for Bo Pelini, the head coach who was let go 2 seasons ago. They were probably ready for a change, and I think Bo Pelini probably was ready for a change. But you really do have to give some respect to what they were able to do to Bo Pelini's staff. There are really good players here. I know last year was a struggle. I think it was a transition to a different type of coach. They have left some ball players here, and now they're starting to show with this staff how good they can be on defensively a lot with Bo Pelini and his staff's players.
No doubt they were able to revitalize this program, which had fallen on hard times. Perfect strike to Brandon Riley.
You know, that's a good point, Mike. I think a lot of people at the end of the Bo Pelini era here were, again, I think everyone was just ready for a change, but you forget how bad it was before he got here. They put them back in a championship mode. And these are players, Riley, a senior, who came in under that staff. And I'm not taking anything away from Mike Riley and what his staff has done, especially the improvement they've made from last year to this year in multiple phases. But these are all players brought in by the previous staff, and they really did bring this program back and make it relevant again.
Nebraska marching. Another nice cut by Newby. Only gets about a yard out of it, but he earned it. Ed, I remember saying at the time when they made the change to Bill Callahan, and he literally changed the culture of this program, maybe the only program in the country that didn't need to have its culture changed, and it was a disaster.
It sure was. And Mike Riley fits this place like a glove. He's obviously a very good coach, incredibly nice guy. We visited with him for a really long time yesterday. Fun to talk to. And here's the other part that Mike Riley and his staff are starting to figure out. He said it's taken us a while to get our kind of theory down on recruiting for Nebraska, but what they've settled on, you have to recruit nationally. It's a national brand. There are not enough players kind of within 100, 200 miles, but starting to focus on a 500-mile radius. 2 tanks of gas. They said if a family can get here, it's a big deal, and they're starting to get players from South Dakota, places that they've really focused on, and once they get their foothold, I think this is going to be a pretty good run.
4-man rush. Armstrong for the end zone, too high, intended for Riley. Good coverage by DeJuan Hunt, who is probably the best cover corner on this Purdue roster.
Boy, and Hunt was really physical. Let's watch the end of the route going against Riley. Good throw, by the way, by Armstrong. No, not a penalty. It's just a bunch of hand fighting. But that was terrific coverage by Hunt because that throw by Armstrong was pretty accurate.
This will be a 30-yard try for Drew Brown.
And a good stop here. You know, third down. You mentioned the third down stop. Good stop for Purdue.
Brown on the Luke Rosa watch list as the best kicker in the country. Has hit 6 out of 7 so far this year. The Boiler Brewing Company and Tap Room, located in the historic Grand Man's building in downtown Lincoln. Perfect with Purdue in town, isn't it?
Yeah, the Boilermakers. Sign me up for an IPA. You know,
what an exciting game so far.
You know what would be a dirty trick by Nebraska? Right here. Onside kick.
Oh.
Got a little momentum going. Got a team with an interim head coach. Your defense is playing great. Why not let them play on the short field if you don't get it?
We have a cruelty streak. They'll return this one. Langford Johnson will take it up across the 20 to about the 22-yard line. Absolutely perfect day in the middle of October. It's 10-7 Nebraska. Here's a little Purdue coaching history for you. Joe Tiller led the club for 12 seasons, in which the Boilermakers won 87 games. They went to 10 bowls, including the 2001 Rose. Danny Hope came next. He had a subpar overall and Big Ten record through 4 seasons. Then Darrell Hazel in 2013 until this past Sunday. His 3-24 Big Ten record was one of the main reasons for his dismissal. Jared Parker, the interim coach, his first game today, got off to just a horrible start. But things have gotten better since then.
Athletic director Mike Babinski, who made the decision to fire Hazel, a very good man. Darrell Hazel is one of the nicest, most genuine people you'll ever meet. Things just didn't work out. But Babinski came on the job September 1st, did not like the direction of the program. And Mike had a conversation before the game. He said they'll be very competitive. They will give Parker, he said if they do something into the season, of course we'll look at Parker, but they plan to be very competitive finding a new coach.
It's going to be a national search. They're going to look for somebody who will have an impact in the Big Ten as Gregory Phillips makes his first catch. And there was some feeling that maybe they wouldn't be competitive in salary. He said they will be. They're not going to be insane about it, but they will be competitive. They are going to look for somebody, and they hope the search will be concluded by the end of the college football season.
And he's very thoughtful, Babinski was, when he named Jared Parker the head coach. He gave him the 3 reasons why he wanted him to be the coach, and the number one is because he's recruited almost all of these guys. Remember, Parker was the recruiting coordinator under Darrell Hazel, and what Parker, a former player, has done really hard is work on his player relations.
3rd and an inch. Markel Jones gets it, and for more, let's go down to Jerry Punch. Doc?
Hey, guys, who was the last wide receiver position coach to be promoted to interim head coach? How about 2008? Dabo Swinney. The Clemson Tigers were 3-3. Purdue coming in today 3-3. Dabo was 38. This guy, Jared Parker, is 35. And by the way, the reason they promoted him, because the relationships he had with the players and the kids believed in him. And the rest is history at Clemson. Maybe the same results at Purdue. You never know.
Jerry, he can only hope he has the kind of career that Dabo Swinney has been able to build at Clemson, to put a lot of pressure on Blau.
And the officials are coming together to see if this should be intentional grounding. There was not an eligible receiver in the area where Blau threw it. There was an offensive lineman, and they weren't sure if he was out of the pocket. And even if he was out of the pocket, the ball did not go beyond the line of scrimmage.
Respond to the foul. Loss of down. 2nd down.
And that is a huge penalty.
I think they were trying to identify who the player was.
Yeah, it looked like the quarterback maybe went the wrong way, but because even if he was outside of the pocket, the ball would have had to land near an eligible receiver. It did not. There was no receiver in the area, and because it looked like Blau maybe turned the wrong way for the screen and started bailing backwards, he gets a huge 17-yard loss on the play.
And Carlos Davis, number 96, gets credit for the sack. Blau short set, quickly gets it out to Bilal Marshall.
He's got an active arm. Blau, really an active guy. We talked to defensive coordinator Mark Banker, and he had really strong words about this guy, how much he disliked his style. And it wasn't because he's not good. He said, I just don't like a guy who moves around as much as he does and has that good of an arm. They're hard to defend. Last week against Indiana, they played an offense that leaves the quarterback mostly in the pocket. But Blau is a guy, and this is a down and distance where you try it. He can get on the move and make big throws like we've already seen to Bilal Marshall.
They told us he is ultra competitive about everything and has a tremendous desire to learn more about playing quarterback. Nice touch throw there to Markel Jones. So he has shown us a couple of different things. He can throw the deep ball. He can throw the out, which requires a big arm, and he's got touch.
Yeah, this was a terrific throw. Good call by Mark Bankner and good execution of the blitz. Too many guys came on the left side. And that was a terrific job by Blau to even pick up positive yardage on that one. Otherwise, they would have been back about 10 yards. But you're right, Mike. He's shown a lot. Good call by Banker. Good execution on the blitz. They brought one more than Purdue could block, and Blau had to get rid of it too early.
The guy who buried him was Freedom Akinmola. DeMornay Pierson-El is deep. Now gets out of the way and takes a nice Purdue bounce inside the 10-yard line. Good coverage by special teams. A 47-yard kick. Tonight, catch an SEC Top 25 doubleheader on ESPN. Starts at 6 Eastern. Number 17, Arkansas. At number 21, Auburn. Then at 9, number 25, LSU will host number 23, Ole Miss. Both games also streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN.
Interim head coach day around college football. Interim head coach Ed Orgeron taking on his former employer Ole Miss at LSU. LSU playing way better with much more energy and passion than before the change at coach there. And you have an interim coach here giving it his first shot, Jared Parker.
Armstrong, boy, has he been on target. And this is Alonzo Moore. They're happy to have him back. Missed the Illinois game with a shoulder injury. Earlier in his career, he's a very reliable guy now, but earlier in his career, he was really plagued by drop passes. He has a ridiculous average that will be hurt by that last catch. 25.8 yards per catch this year.
And he has to step up with Jordan Westerkamp out. And you mentioned they're hopeful Westerkamp will be back next week for the big game against Wisconsin. And they're going to let the first quarter run out.
And it runs out with Purdue surprisingly extremely competitive here at number 8 Nebraska. This presentation of college football will continue after this message and a word from our ABC station. Well, boys, how are you? We're in Nebraska, and the Huskers leading Purdue by only 3 points right now. Both quarterbacks have enjoyed great success in the first quarter. Combined, they're 12 out of 14. Armstrong and a keeper blocker in front. Pushed out of bounds after a nice game.
Well, clearly Armstrong is healthier than he has been in weeks.
And almost everything they've done has been successful so far.
And it helps when you get just terrific blocking on the edge. As the right guard, Tanner Farmer, pulls around and gets a really good hook block. You have to be able to, that's called setting the edge on defense. That means turn the guy back inside. Well, they didn't set the edge because Mr. Farmer had a good block.
Newby will only get a couple to the 45. And keep in mind, 3 of the starting linemen for this ball club have had ankle injuries, and they've been nursing them.
Yeah, you've got David Neville at right tackle and Nick Gates at left tackle. Nick was not able to practice much this week. They also lost one of their best linemen during camp in Gerald Foster. And there's Neville, who I've watched him a couple of pass sets. He doesn't quite look like he did before the injury last week when he had to come out against Indiana, but he's hanging in there.
Armstrong flanked by two backs, quarterback draw, but very well diagnosed by Purdue that time. And Austin Larkin, number 45, will just not let Armstrong get inside him and made the stop. Let's go to Jerry Punch. Doc?
Hey, give a call to athletic trainer Mark Mayer for Nebraska. You talking about Neville and Gates. Both of these guys were able to practice. He put them in soft cast, talking about the ankle inches. Both of them have high ankles. He put them in soft cast for the week, ordered a special brace. They put them on today, taped over them, and both of them seem to be holding up pretty well.
It's a great job because the last thing you want to do is lose both tackles to start a ball game. Armstrong on the run and throws incomplete.
And all of a sudden, guess who's got 2 stops on 3rd down?
Absolutely.
Purdue's defense, and there's Tommy Armstrong doing a little of the throw off the back foot, although the receiver was not open at all. So I'm not sure he was going to be able to make that.
And again, if you missed it, this Purdue defense is the worst 3rd down defense in the country. And they've had a couple of stops in this game. Caleb Lightbourne is on to punt.
And 90,000 people are silent.
Yes, they are.
That's a weird sound.
Malik Kimbrough waits back near his 20. Rugby-style low bouncer that Kimbrough lets go. This is going to die inside the 5. That has revolutionized kicking in college football.
And remember, this is a team that lost Sam Foltz, their punter, coming into the season in a tragic car accident, and this has not been a good part of the game, and Lightbourne finally delivers.
Welcome back to Lincoln, Nebraska. Tonight on ABC, it's the annual whiteout game at Beaver Stadium as Penn State will play host to number 2 Ohio State. Tonight, 8 Eastern on ABC, as well as streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN.
Did you see the note that J.T. Barrett wants his name pronounced a different way? He came out today.
How?
J.T. Barrett.
Really?
No. Seems to pay attention.
Oh, that's cool.
But I think Barrett, or Beret, as it were, is going to be the difference in a big one tonight against Penn State. I'm not sure Penn State can hang with the Buckeyes this season.
Purdue starts from its 1, and they come out throwing. That's Bryson Hopkins, the tight end. Had a huge day against Iowa. 3 catches for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns, along with his compatriot at tight end, Cole Herdman, who had over 100 yards. The first tight end since 2007 to do that. They've got 2 guys who can really play that position.
And they need him. With Dominique Young out, who was their most productive receiver with a knee injury. And this is a group of offensive linemen that have been banged up. We've been talking about the injuries for Nebraska, but Matt McCann and Cameron Sermon, their 2 tackles at Purdue, have been battling some injuries as well.
This is the big guy, Richie Worship. 6'4", 245 pounds, a redshirt freshman.
And Terry Malone, the offensive coordinator, also doubles as the tight ends coach. And he was just effusive in what Herdman and Hopkins have brought to this offense. When they lost Young, a really good player kind of took the wind out of their sails, and yet they've got Herdman and Hopkins now mixed more into the pass game. And these are 2 tall, big-bodied guys who are very athletic.
And even though he hasn't been playing, Dominique Young still has 29 catches. That's number 1 on this roster. So he was extremely productive. Wow. Good job escaping pressure.
That was a terrific escape.
Throws it away. Yes,
that was a terrific escape. This is it was funny when we were talking to Mark Banker. Mark Banker is one of the more entertaining guys, the defensive coordinator from Nebraska, that you'll ever talk about. And he just badmouthed Blau for how athletic he was. I hate that he can run around like that. That's a 7-yard loss. That keeps it as a no-loss play and a manageable 3rd down. Terrific movement by Blau to save that yardage.
Of course, it was his way of giving Blau all the credit in the world for what he could do.
Yeah, it was funny. He's a Northeasterner through and through, that's for sure.
3rd and 6, crowd back into it. 4-man rush. Blau over the middle has the first down to Marshall and more. Marshall up to the 30. There is a flag back at the 15.
I'm not sure they got the snap off. You could see David Blau slapping his hands for Kirk Barron, the center, to snap it. and I'm not sure that they got this snap off before delay of game.
Legal motion, offense. Players are not fully set for 1 second.
Oh, man.
5-yard penalty, third down.
What a bummer for Purdue, as Blau was slapping for the ball. I thought it was the clock was running down, but they didn't get everyone set. Watch as because the left guard, Jason King, was moving, getting set in his stance as the man was in motion. It was two players moving at the same time. So then the wide receiver would have had to have been set for 1 second for it to be a shift instead of a motion.
Is the kind of mistakes you make in a losing program. These are the little things that get you beat. Blau rifles that one to Yancey. Yancey off and running, looking for a block, and he got it. 88 yards.
Cameron Posey is the guy who made this happen twice. Posey is the guy who ran the safety off the first time to bring Yancey open underneath, and then Posey was the guy who came back when Yancey was trying to finish it out. And this place is dead silent. It's eerie how quiet it is. A top 10 team down to a team that just fired its coach on Sunday.
The weapon that Blau has is 3 senior wide receivers on the field at the same time. Yancey came into this game with 3 touchdowns on the season. He has 2 in the first half.
And it all starts with a terrific pocket built by this offensive line, a banged-up offensive front. They're also missing a starter to suspension, but there was a clean pocket for Blau, who stood in there and waited and waited and waited, and Cameron Posey gets the assist on the 88-yard touchdown to Yancey.
Back at Memorial Stadium, no name more synonymous with success here for the Cornhuskers than this man, Tom Osborne. 3 national titles, 13 conference titles, and a record 255 wins. And, Coach, of all you accomplished here on the field and off, what are you most proud of?
Well, probably relationships with former players. You know, I talk to 2 or 3, 4 of them every week, and so we had a good atmosphere, good chemistry here. And certainly the academic performance of our players and seeing them become successful later in life has been very fulfilling.
Well, you certainly have a lot of them who have gone a long way after their careers here. You know, current head coach Mike Riley says that when he gets asked, or it says people compare him demeanor-wise to you, it is both flattering and humbling. What are your thoughts about Mike Riley and the job he is doing here at Nebraska?
Well, Mike is a very experienced coach, obviously, been at it a long time. Very personable guy, very nice guy, and I've had quite a bit of interaction with him here lately, and I admire him greatly. So he's done a good job. He's hung in there. He knows his business, and hopefully things will go well for him. He's had a little bit more good luck this year than last year. We had a lot of bad breaks, but hopefully things will continue to go well for him.
In your years as a head coach and athletic director and then later a congressman, you've been able to see sports from all sides. As you see it from all different directions, what's the biggest challenge we face in college football today?
Well, probably, Jerry, the biggest challenge right now is the money, because so much money now in professional sports and college athletics that sometimes kids are very impatient and they want to play, they want to move on to the next level too quickly. And then, of course, the concussion issue is a concern too, but I think that the financial interest and the money is the biggest deal.
Hey, Coach, thank you so much for coming down, and thank you for being such a great role model and ambassador for college football.
Well, thank you, Jerry. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
The legendary Tom Osborne, the all-time winningest coach in Husker history. Mike?
Jerry, always a gentleman and a gentle man.
And Mike Riley said what he was struck by most with Coach Osborne is what a great listener he is. He said you don't expect someone who's had that much success to do more listening than talking. He said that's the experience he's had. And Tom Osborne mentioned they've been connecting a little more. Mike Riley has reached out and has a relationship, and they go to lunch and talk about the program. And just, hearing Coach Osborne talk about the guys after football, what they've done. This university does more for their student athletes than I think probably any school in America. Their life skills department, which is a group of 5 professionals who help student athletes transition and learn how to live a life after their students, is one of the greatest things they've done, and something that Mike Riley really pushes on his recruits, and how much they take care of you as the student part here at Nebraska versus just the athlete part.
Armstrong too high on the screen. DeJuan Hunt was there anyway. I think one of the things that struck me the most with all the stuff that we read before we do ball games is how many people were comparing Mike Riley to Tom Osborne. And I think when they do that, Mike is such a sensitive guy. I think it's a little embarrassing to him. Like he really hasn't earned that kind. But that's what they needed here. They needed somebody that fans could say, hey, he's like Tom Osborne.
Well, they got him, and frankly, a lot of them were questioning the hire last year at this time. Sure, this is a 3-5 team getting ready to play Purdue at this time last year. And here, another good defensive effort for Purdue on 3rd down. We've been, you brought up there the worst defense in the country. I believe this is their 3rd defensive stop.
And Jalen Robinson was held by David Neville out in the middle of the field right in front of the officials, and they missed that one. So Nebraska gets a break. They'll have to kick it away, but this has been a heck of a performance by this Purdue defense. Low line drive kick that will go out of bounds between the 10 and 11-yard line. 41-yard kick with the good bounce. Timeout on the field. Purdue by 4.
Well, Purdue, probably about the number 80 team in the country, is on top of the number 8 team in the country, Nebraska, because David Blau has been on fire at quarterback so far. He hits D'Angelo Yancey on a one-on-one route for a touchdown. Then Yancey gets a little help from his mate Cameron Posey, and Blau last year in a huge win at home against Nebraska played great, and today, if you can believe it, playing even better. And that's saying something, Mike, because last year's defense for Nebraska was 120th in the country against the pass. Today, Nebraska's defensive secondary in the top 30, and they have 11 interceptions, which is best for 5 in the country. So a much better defense this year he's carving out.
Got to start in a big hole, gives it to Malik Kimbrough. Coming in this game, had 3 catches on the year. He's probably getting some more playing time because of Dominique Young.
And remember, head coach Jared Parker, interim head coach Jared Parker, is the wide receivers coach. So he knows that group well. He had to hand over some duties this week. But he talked about what a loss Young was. You mentioned still the top receiver, and he's been out for 2.5 games almost now.
Blitz coming, and Brian Langford Johnson will only get a couple against it. It'll bring up a 3rd and 5. Dedrick Young is coming off the corner on a run blitz and got him.
And this is where, because Blau is so mobile, you have to be careful if you're going to bring pressure. If you're Nebraska, where are you going to bring it from if you're Mark Banker? Because Blau on 3rd and 5, he can move, and he's good enough to have a run-pass option. If he runs, he's good enough to pick up 5 yards. I'm not sure you blitz here. I think you play off, and it looks like that's what Nebraska's doing.
Only 4 come. Blau pressured, now just chucks it out of bounds.
That's the first time Blau mismanaged the pocket. There was a pocket back to the inside, and as there was a defensive line stud on that side, Mick Stoltenberg gets to the outside. If Blau steps up into that pocket, wow, he took a monster hit, and that's his right throwing shoulder. That Stoltenberg, you can see right there, he's squeezing that right hand. And the way his shoulder got, and that was a clean hit. There was nothing illegal by Stoltenberg's hit, but to make sure he's okay, he was squeezing that right hand as he got up. He seems to be not bothered at all by it, but that was a good hit. But he could have stepped up into a pocket where it was soft.
Joe Schopper, who has done a really good job as the Purdue punter, sails one high, and a fair catch made inside the 35-yard line. 51 net on the punt. We check in with Cassidy Hubbarth.
This Mike, Carmax Drive What's Possible update. Number 6 Texas A&M taking on number 1 Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Jalen Hurts to O.J. Howard. The Tide up 13-0 in the second in a battle of the SEC's remaining unbeatens. Mike, Ed, back to you guys.
Alabama may apply for an NFL expansion franchise and just let it be done with that.
It's not a big enough market to get one.
Nebraska in the unexpected position of being down by 4 points to a Purdue team that fired its coach last Sunday. And Mikhail Wilbon picks up maybe a yard against the front of this Purdue defense that is 124th in the country against the run. Remember, there are only 128 teams.
And Terrell Newby comes back in, and the stuck in mud Nebraska offense has been stalling with the pass game. I think you're going to get a bunch of Newby right here, 2nd and 3rd down to 34.
They fake it to him. Armstrong then throws it to him. Newby almost lost the ball as he was picked up and planted by the strong safety Leroy Clark, who said, "This is how you tackle."
Nice throw by Armstrong. A little surprised that they were calling another pass play. Just hasn't gone well. And Newby, who almost fumbled in the 4th quarter against Indiana, which would have totally changed that game, and it was overturned after review. Good, clean, hard tackle there. But Newby able to hold on. But this is a pretty game Purdue defense for a defense that's been dragged up and down the field all year.
3rd and a long 3. Armstrong with time, throws in the flat. That's going to be short of a 1st down.
Boy, Nebraska feels like they're overthinking this a little bit with all of these throws on 2nd and 3rd down. This is the 3rd drive in a row where it feels like, don't overthink this. You're going up against a defense that has its best defensive player, Jake Rapogel, the defensive lineman, out for the day. You just mentioned 124th in the country. Feels like Nebraska may be, panic's not the word, but just overthinking it a bit right now.
DeJuan Hunt made that last stop, a great tackle in space. The last 4 3rd downs, Nebraska is 0 for 4 against a defense that is the worst in allowing 3rd down conversions in the country. They have really turned that stat and this game on its head.
So you didn't jinx them. You actually helped them when you talked about that. Way to go.
The first time. Celebrating its 12th year sponsoring the Good Hands Field Goal Nets, Allstate makes contributions to participating universities' general scholarship funds for each field goal and extra point kicked. To date, Allstate has contributed millions in scholarship funds.
Is it really October 22nd in Lincoln, Nebraska right now?
Feels like June, doesn't it?
Feels like I'm in the Bahamas.
David Blau has had a terrific first half. Goes back to throw on 1st down. Goes underneath to his running back, Markel Jones. And Jones picks up 8.
And this is a game that has to have you slack-jawed if you're a Nebraska fan. They felt so disrespected last week. Kirk Herbstreit on College Game Day would not answer whether they were a top 10 team or not. And everyone was miffed by that. But boy, you start to look at a game like this and you start to wonder, is this a top 10 team?
Blau again to Jones, and he is popped as soon as he catches the ball by Josh Banderas, the middle linebacker, who played really well a week ago.
Nice job by Blau, just immediately coming down, picking up another 1st down. And
it is an interesting question because they really haven't played much of a schedule yet. They've got Wisconsin and Ohio State coming up. Purdue has played so poorly they fired their coach, but they're going head-to-head with Nebraska right now. Again, underneath and complete. Banderas again on the coverage. This time it's Cole Herdman, the tight end out of Leesburg, Virginia.
That was a fire. That was a fastball, and Herdman was able to bring that in. The one thing that when we were talking to Jared Parker, the interim head coach of Purdue, they're 3-3. It's not like they're 0-6 and Darrell Hazel got fired. This is a team with 3 wins that gets to go to a bowl game and a lot of seniors. So that's what Parker's first order of business is. Let's have some fun for the seniors, and what the heck, let's see if we can get in a bowl game.
But the other stats, they have, under Darrell Hazel, they never won 2 games in a row. They would play well 1 week, and that's in 3.5 years, which is remarkable.
Yeah.
They would play well 1 week and then get stomped the next week.
And what Jared Parker, who was very thankful and the crowd booing because they feel like, and I do too, that maybe it was too good of a spot, gave the Boilermakers a first down. But Coach Parker gave Coach Hazel a big compliment. He said, I don't have a chance to do this. He says, one of the best guys I've ever known and ever worked for. Just didn't work out.
First down. The previous plays on the further review.
We're going to take a look at it in the booth. But I think anybody that ever met Darrell Hazel was so impressed just by talking to the guy for a minute and a half.
Really engaging, smart, fun guy to be around, cares very deeply. It just didn't work out, and that happens. Darrell Hazel is going to be able to do whatever he wants. He'll be able to coach again. Let's take a look at this spot. Well, they're not going to be able to overturn it. Well,
they've got it marked at the 45. He clearly didn't get to the 45.
Let's see.
This is the 44.
44, yeah. And he had to. What they'll have to do now, though, is go back and look at where the chains were set.
Right.
To make sure where they were. He needed to get to the 44 for a first down, and it looks to me like he was right on that 44, so they'll have to reset, spot the ball, reset the chains, and potentially mark it. Now, what they do with the chains, they do right down where they have a little marker they put so they can go back and put it right on that yard marker. They should be able to set the chains accurately. The question is, after the review, when upstairs, the replay official, Dennis Lipsky this week from the Big Ten, will have to tell the referee, Jerry McGinn, right where to put it. They'll reset the chains, and then we'll see if they got the first down. It will be right on the 44. A good review, and I'm not so sure the fans of Nebraska didn't have something to do with it. They clearly thought that an extra yard was given to Worship.
Down there.
At the further review, the runner was down at the 44-yard line, short on line of gain. It'll be third down at the 44-yard line, left hash.
I think you need, he needed the 44.5-yard line for the first down. Good job resetting the chains accurately. And a opportunity for Nebraska defensively to get a little momentum back.
Maybe a half yard. And they've got it as Markel Jones.
That's a terrific,
straight forward.
That was a terrific run right there, because there was a lot of penetration by Nebraska defensively. And here is Purdue with the clock running up by 4. And frankly, feeling they look comfortable. Purdue looks like this is where we should be. Everything's good. They're certainly got a jolt with Jared Parker, the interim head coach. This is, I'd have to say, if you're a Purdue fan, you'd have to be pretty happy with the first half here.
Well, the pocket collapses, and 3 of the black shirt defenders, led by Kevin Maurice, met the quarterback at the 35.
Maurice, a guy who's a senior who hadn't played a ton before this year, and it was terrific coverage in this secondary. Even though Posey came open there on the slot there for a minute, right here is where the pocket started to collapse. That time, there was nowhere in the pocket to go, so Blau could do nothing but take that sack.
Well, there was another favorable spot for Purdue. They gave an additional yard again, at least on that spot. 2nd and 18. They go with Bilal Marshall as a Wildcat quarterback.
And Purdue called a timeout to avoid a delay of game there.
If you weren't with us at the beginning of the ball game, it started like it was going to be a disaster for interim head coach Jared Parker and the Boilermakers. First play, they try a halfback pass. It gets picked off. Second play, Armstrong walks in for a touchdown. 16 seconds into the game, he's already down 7-0. But his kids have really responded.
Yeah, and then what Jared Parker has been trying to sell, as his family came from Kentucky. Mom and Dad made the drive. Rick and Laura, they called him 5:30 in the morning the day after he got the job and said, we're going to find our way to Lincoln to see our son, who has worked his whole life to be a coach.
Jerry Punch has more on the family. Doc?
Yeah, they've come a long way, but it's been all about emotion this week for his wife, Candy, their little girl who's just 2 months old. And before leaving the hotel, Coach gave them a speech that moved everyone to emotionally. Some were in tears, some had chills. He said, guys, believe why we are here. This day is about moments and memories. Cherish the moments, and let's go out and make some memories.
Well, Jerry, they've already made a lot of memories. This has been a heck of a performance. Still a long way to go. They want to throw for the first down, or at least advance it, excuse me, on second down, and they get it out. Aaron Williams makes the stop on Herdman.
You know, and if you're going to keep your foot on the gas, if you're Jared Parker, if you get the ball over the 50 and you have a 4th and inside 3, or call it 4th and 3 or less, this is a place where you could be going for it. This is a lot of yardage to pick up on one play against a defensive front that can really bring pressure, even if they don't blitz, but Nebraska's showing blitz here.
They need 5 to move the sticks. Wow, with time. What a throw, what a catch. Marshall diving toward the sticks.
And if I were Purdue, I'd go fast. That was a great catch by Marshall, but it looks like he's maybe 6 inches short here.
What a grab.
And remember, he's got to control it through the catch, or through the ground, which it looked like he did. That is a terrific catch.
Maybe 3/4 of a yard.
I don't know how these officials are really missing the spot. That was an additional yard.
Yes, it was.
This should be 4th down here.
That's 3 of the last 6 or 7 plays where they missed significantly.
Thrown on the field was a reception with a first down. The previous plays on the further review.
Well, they're going to review whether it was a catch or not, but they also need to review the spot.
Yes, they do. Look at that. I mean, how can you miss it that far? They would have to give him at least a yard to say it's a first down. Yeah, at least a yard.
Well, this is going to be 4th down. There's no way they don't overturn this, but you got to make sure he caught it. Let's see if Marshall made the catch.
He did. That's a remarkable effort on his part. Ball didn't move, still had control, but he is at least a yard shy.
Watch right as he hits the ground. Now, again, the ball, I think it's a catch. Here's what I think. The ball can move so long as Marshall still has control of it. Means if the ball would come out, if the ground weren't there, they would overturn it. It looked to me like Marshall did have control. It looked like the ball touched the ground and it moved a little bit. Both of those things are okay as long as the replay official says he had control of it. My opinion, he had control of it, and it's not opinion. It's got to be because it was ruled a catch.
Nothing here said he didn't have control.
Correct.
So the ruling on the field was a catch. So you have to have indisputable evidence to overturn it, and there's nothing there that qualifies.
And then I also think that they have to review the spot. Watch right as Marshall hits the ground. If he still has control of the ball. There's just no way you can tell me he did not control that ball through the ground. I know it moved. I know it touched the ground.
The runner was down at the 45-yard line. Short of the line of gain. The back of the ball be at the 45-yard line on the right hash.
There you go. And they apparently didn't even review the catch, saying it was good, but good that they reviewed for Nebraska the spot. And now you have to go for it. I think this is the right call by Purdue.
And a huge play.
And I don't think you run between the tackles. It's not their strength. This is not what they're good at. They're lined up to do that, but boy, I think you got to get the ball away from the middle of the defense.
Fake by Blau, throws to his tight end, Herdman. Herdman with a first down and more. What a great play call. You put Richie Worship, your 245-pound back in there, fake it to him, and Blau carried it out perfectly. Put the ball on his hip. Just, great run. There you go.
And a really nicely designed play because the first 2 options for Blau were covered. Herdman was the 3rd option.
And around. Tied hard-nosed well by Nebraska, but they can't get Kimbrough down until the 3rd, 4th, and 5th men hit him.
They don't need trick plays. They don't need trick plays. The first trick play of the game got intercepted. They gave up 7 points to Nebraska off of it. This time, I mean, they're moving right down the field. Don't overthink it. You're in this game. You're playing great.
Well, with time, throws to Herdman again. He's knocked down near the 40-yard line.
And look, with 1:11, you're not quite in field goal range. J.D. Dellinger, their kicker, true freshman, you'd want to be inside the 25, but you also have control of the game, control of the clock here. 3rd down. Again, I don't think, 3rd and 12 is not a down and distance. You want to have your quarterback standing on the spot, I don't think, against this rush. And I don't think you need it all necessarily if you think about going for it on 4th down.
Nebraska shows blitz. And here they come. Blau throws underneath, incomplete. Excellent coverage by Joshua Kalu.
Well, now you're
He
in a
knew
tough
that
spot.
ball had to come out in a hurry.
Yeah, good call by Mark Banker, defensive coordinator, to get the ball out of the hand. Now this is a tough call for first-time head coach Jared Parker. You've got 1:08.
Too far to go.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Well,
4th and 12.
Yeah,
I mean, I would agree. If it was 4th and 3 or 4, I'm with you.
And you have to feel good, as crazy as this sounds, you have to feel good about how your defense has played, which I don't know if anybody said that for Purdue this season. But for Jared Parker, his defense has four straight drives of 3 and out.
Yeah, you got to be thrilled. You got to be thrilled with everything.
Yeah.
Except the first 16 seconds of the game, which was a
5-yard
downer.
penalty. 4th down.
But you have to be pleased with how, and by the way, this is one of the penalties that I always wonder why the opposing coach doesn't decline this. All penalties can be declined.
And they just did.
Oh, I think that might be a first. You do not have to accept the penalty. So this gives it a better chance to go in the 20. To get the ball back out to the 20 if it goes in the end zone.
Schopper's one of the best in the country at killing the ball deep. 52% of his punts, 4th in the country, have been downed inside the 20-yard line. End over end. And, of course, he'll kick that one into the end.
And a great decline by Mike Riley.
Yes, it was.
Most coaches don't know you can. He did.
Tomorrow morning, kick off your Pro Football Sunday with ESPN at 10 Eastern. NFL Insiders Sunday edition. We'll update you on all the injury news, all the fantasy stuff as well. Then at 11, Chris Berman, the rest of his Sunday NFL Countdown crew, take you right up to kickoff. Both shows streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN. So if you're in Nebraska, what do you do with the last minute? I mean, certainly you can move the ball with
I would
Armstrong.
run the football. I would not risk, except maybe a really easy throw, a long throw down the sideline. I would run this ball, and if we get a big play and we get out to midfield, then play a little bit. I would not throw it.
Armstrong will, and he unloads into coverage. And no flag.
Yeah, that looked to me like the safety who came over made an obvious impact, and Brandon Riley.
Reimer's the intended receiver.
Yeah,
I don't know if there was enough to.
That looked like the arm to me of Leroy Cook. He gave a jam to Reimers there. It didn't look as bad on the replay as it did in live action, but it looked to me like he knocked Reimers off his route.
Armstrong's going to take off. Guy is dangerous in the open field, gets up to the 35. That'll stop the clock with 45 seconds to go while they move the chains.
And for Nebraska now, you've got 3 timeouts. While I don't think you'd use one here, you got to be really careful. You're going to lose almost 10 seconds here, which is about 2 or 3 snaps.
Armstrong underneath, but that ball's thrown in the field of play. Dropped by Cotton, but a big hit again by DeJuan Hunt. Young man out of Miami's really got some skills as a cover corner.
And you love to see the head behind. It's out of the tackle. And that timing of the hit makes it incomplete, stops the clock, which may help Nebraska ultimately, because that would have maybe taken a timeout there had Cotton made the catch.
Armstrong again underneath. Well, there's Newby in the open field, just making people look silly.
Got to go fast, though. Nebraska's starting to get to it. With 3 timeouts, they're starting to get to a place where they're just not going to have enough time here, and that was a good timeout. The time before, when they got the first down, it took almost 10 seconds off the clock before they got the snap, and that time Riley takes the timeout because you don't want to burn 7 or 8 seconds here to get the next play off with 3 timeouts.
Very confident in the leg of Drew Brown, their place kicker. They've let him try for as long as 56 this year. Now let's take a look at this week's AP rankings, brought to you by Northwestern Mutual. Alabama with a lead. Ohio State plays at Penn State tonight. Michigan, as expected, rolling Illinois. Clemson gets the week off. Oregon State has to play against your alma mater, Washington, which is having a great year. NC State got hammered by Louisville after a very good performance last week. Baylor with a bye, and Iowa in a slugfest loss to Wisconsin.
Wisconsin has 2 losses in conference, which is amazing how good the conference is that they're in the top 10. But I do think they are a top 10 team. And, of course, this Cornhusker team goes over to play them next week.
They need 17 yards to try a 50-yarder. Not sure that one didn't skip in there to Pierson-El.
Sure did. This is a throw I think Tommy Armstrong would want back. He did step into it, but just not quite enough. And they had Pierson-El beyond the first down marker, so it would have stopped the clock.
One of the few throws he's been off target on.
Yeah, he's played much better today than he did last week against Indiana.
Time now really effective. 17 seconds to go. Whips it down the middle, and it's picked. Intercepted by Jimmy Herman, a backup linebacker. 23 yards on the return. So as soon as we say Tommy Armstrong hasn't thrown too many bad balls, he comes up short on one.
Yeah, he just totally missed Herman, the linebacker, backing into it. And I don't mind that they're calling the pass here, but this is a mistake you don't want your senior quarterback to make. And now, because of the return by Herman, now you have a little bit of time here. I don't know that if you're Purdue, I don't know that you have time for 2 plays, so you can pick up maybe 5 or 10 with an out. But I think if you get, and the young coach is deciding, let's take a knee and go to halftime. I was saying, why not try a Hail Mary? If you get the ball back, it's worth a try. But I understand the young coach deciding, hey, I got a 4-point lead.
He's playing with house money right now.
Just thinking aggressive, man. You're on the road. And Nebraska, remember, Nebraska probably the best team this year in the 4th quarter. So for Mike Riley, he's got to be promising his troops the best is yet to come.
The drama is building as we go to Jerry Punch. Doc?
Coach, you became the interim head coach just 6 days ago, and today you lead the 8th-ranked team in the country at halftime. What are your emotions?
Well, we lead the 18th right now. We do. These guys, man, I'm almost in tears and got chills all over me. We're just so happy for the guys and our staff. Been through a tough week. It's been an unbelievable chance to let these kids come out here and play their tails off, and they've done it.
Third down defense has been a struggle for you guys all year long. You're stopping the Huskers time and time again. How are you doing that?
Great effort by our defensive staff. Our players have bought in. They're running around and having fun. It's amazing what a little bit of mindset will do to you. Start having faith in your guys. You go out here and you run around and do what we've done on third down.
Hey, thanks, Coach.
Thanks a lot.
What a first half for that young man. The whole family is here, and Mom is beside herself. When we come back, the studio brings you up to date after these messages from our ABC stations. You are watching the Big Ten on ABC. And you're getting to see a terrific ball game. Underdog Purdue over Nebraska 14-10. And except for the first 2 plays of the game, which looked like it would be a total disaster for Purdue, the underdogs have outplayed the number 8 team in the country.
Let's be clear here. Underdog, 24 points is what the experts thought when Purdue came in here they were going to lose by. 24, and they're up 4. So for Jared Parker, remember Darrell Hazel, the head coach of Purdue, no longer the head coach of Purdue. He was fired Sunday. And you've got to think for Jared Parker, the message has to be pretty simple. this is not a fluke, guys. You played great. David Blau, the quarterback, has played sensational.
Sure.
They don't have to do anything other than just stick on the game plan. We're fine.
Mike Riley is on the other end of the spectrum from this, and let's go down to him with Jerry Punch, recorded just a moment ago.
Hey, Coach, what's the key to trying to get the offense moving here in the second half?
We've got to find a better way to run the ball. You know, we're not getting anything consistently. We're ending up with lots of third and longs, and then we're not doing a great job of, even if it's better, converting them. But I think we just got to find a way to run the ball. The other stuff will come if we run better, Jerry.
Hey, thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Coach. J.D. Dellinger will kick it away for Purdue. Trey Bryant is deep. 3 yards in the end zone. He'll bring it out. Big hole up the middle from Bryant. Got a chance. 63 yards on the return. Let's take a look at our Pacific Life game summary.
Well, we mentioned a moment ago how well David Blau has played this throw here. He did an excellent job in the pocket. Found D'Angelo Yancey, who got some help down in the field by Cameron Posey for an 88-yard touchdown. And the defense for Purdue, which coming in was the worst in the country on third down. They only were able to stop 52% of third downs coming into this game. 4 times they made third down stops in that first half against Nebraska.
See what the focus is here in the second half. They give it to Newby. Newby hit behind the line of scrimmage and taken down. Jalen Robinson, the 6'1", 275-pound junior, stuffed him in the backfield.
Remember that there are injuries up front for Nebraska, and that is Robinson going up against left tackle Nick Gates. Gates is a guy who didn't practice the whole week, has an ankle injury like David Neville, the right tackle. And so the defensive front for Purdue, which hasn't been great in missing their best player, is winning.
Newby again. And again, hit in the backfield, and it's Robinson again. This was not a replay. Just the same result.
There's left tackle Nick Gates. There's Jalen Robinson, goes right inside of him to make the tackle, and David Neville very lucky there at the end, and a good job at the end by Evan Panfield to try to pull Neville off of that, because Neville, the guy who was just being bent over the pile, also has an ankle injury.
Newby, who was averaging 5.3 yards a game on the ground this year, averaging only 2.1 today. Armstrong overthrows. Had Brandon Riley.
You don't need it all when it's 3rd and 10. Oh, Brandon, Riley wanted
contact.
holding. Well, illegal. Once the ball's in the air, then it becomes pass interference. But I agreed that DeJuan Hunt, that could have been called. I believe this should be a first down, Nebraska.
Really slowed him up. 5 straight third down stops for this defense. Malik Kimbrough is deep. End over and kick, he'll let it go. And punters have gotten so good with that backspin as they kick the point of the ball. Whenever it hits, it pops straight up in the air and then goes back. Chris Jones downfield to cover that kick. Monday Night Football has Brock Osweiler back in Denver to lead the Texans against Vaughn Miller and the Broncos defense. Always a factor when you go back to the team that traded you. Coverage begins with Monday Night Countdown at 6 Eastern on ESPN, as well as streaming live on Watch ESPN.
Well, Blau is back to carving up the Nebraska defense just like he did last year in a win that was pretty shocking to the Nebraska faithful, to a middle-of-the-road Purdue team on the road, and he's doing the same today as he did last year.
That's 80% that he's hitting.
Terrific math.
Simple man. Marshall makes the catch. Another good throw from Blau. That's 4 catches for Khalil Marshall out of Miami, Florida, former high school quarterback.
Well, whoever gets the job at Purdue, and let's, even if it's Jared Parker who gets to keep the job, this guy's a sophomore. So you're getting a guy who can throw it. I mean, this is a solid defensive backfield for Nebraska. This is one of the top 10 or 15 backfields in the country, I think. He's carving them up.
Posey on a flanker screen will only get a couple. As we mentioned before, there are 3 senior receivers that start for this club. Bilal Marshall, Cameron Posey, and D'Angelo Yancey. They have all been involved, so they will need to replace wide receivers next year.
And how good could they be down the stretch if they had Dominique Young, who it doesn't appear will be back this season, another senior. And remember, this is a team that's 3-3. They still have a lot to play for at Purdue.
Pulling ground this time with Markel Jones out of Columbus, Indiana. He was the leading rusher last year as a true freshman. Had 875 yards on the ground. No true freshman had ever had that much at Purdue.
He's been battling a shoulder injury, did not play last week, and the coaches say when he is healthy, a shoulder injury is awfully hard for a running back. He takes so many direct shots to your shoulders as a running back, but Terry Malone, the offensive coordinator, said he can be very special when he's healthy.
2nd and 7. Jones, they took a shot right in the chops. Picked up about 3 more. This ball club, halftime must have been unbelievable in that Purdue locker room. These guys have to really be full of spit and vinegar right now.
What you'd hope is you could just stay calm and feel like we deserve this. You know, almost the trick yourself. It's fake it till you make it, and that's what Parker has been selling to these troops, to these guys all week. Is what if you do it? What if? What if? If you beat the top 10 team on the road, what if?
I loved his honesty at halftime where he said he had chills. He was close to having tears in his eyes. Blau, short set, throws underneath, and that's going to be a minimal gain as Kalu comes up and takes Yancey down.
Nice tackle.
Who has 2 touchdown catches today.
That was a nice tackle. Kalu was in good position because if he doesn't take him down, Yancey, I think, easily picks up the first down. Chris Jones was coming over the top, but Yancey would have had the corner there. And a good stop for Nebraska defensively. Got a good punt, force him to kick it back.
Chopper will kick to Pierson-El. Appears to be kicking with the wind as it swirls around on the floor of the stadium. Pierson-El, no fair catch, taken out near the 32-yard line. 43 yards, no return. Nebraska will have the ball when we come back, but the Huskers down by 4. And now for today's Aflac trivia question. When was the last time that Purdue beat a top 10 team on the road? You will not get this one.
40s? 1940s?
Nope.
Be my guess.
Nope.
Be a pretty nice start for Jared Parker, interim head coach, replacing.
It's already been a pretty nice start. It would be a remarkable start if that happens.
And he's a 35-year-old former wide receiver recruiting coach, recruiting coordinator, trying to take the same route that Dabo Sweeney took when Sweeney took over for Tommy Bowden mid through the season. He was a wide receiver coach. Things have worked out okay for him in Clemson.
Tommy Armstrong's second half numbers remarkably better than the first. Long signal count this time. Newby. When that front wall for Purdue has been pretty feisty all day.
Eddie Wilson that time, who's a very athletic guy, and we mentioned just a sophomore. There's some talent here. Darrell Hazel may have been let go, but they were working hard to get some guys here. But there's Jalen Robinson, who was a terror on the last drive. That time, Eddie Wilson. Remember, Purdue is without Jake Replogle, their best defensive player, a defensive tackle who's home with headache, still headache symptoms, so he's not ready to play yet from a concussion.
They did get their 2 best linebackers back in the last couple of weeks.
Ooh, this looks bad.
Again, penetration. They are just firing through. That's Evan Panful, who has more tackles for loss than anybody else on this squad, and they are just whipping Nebraska up front right now.
And that was a complete whiff Panfill was just completely unblocked. Watch as right here at the end of the line, he goes down inside. The tackle goes outside the guard. Just there was miscommunication there. But boy, for Nebraska, third and long. And they're just not getting it done up front.
Armstrong on 3rd and 9. Down the sideline, intended for Riley, and he got it. Great job by Riley to go up. The defensive back never got his head around, never saw where the ball was, and it's a gain of 28 yards.
Looked a lot like last week when Brandon Riley made that catch against Indiana. Ended up being in the Sports Center top 10. I'm not sure this one is going to get it, but this might actually be a better effort. He went up over the top of DeJuan Hunt. Last week, Riley made the catch when the ball was batted around and landed in his hands. That time, he made a terrific play on the ball.
Hunt never saw it, but he did get his arms inside the arms of Riley and still couldn't knock it out of there. Newby. Boy, the run game has gone absolutely nowhere.
And that's Lorenzo Neal, true freshman, getting in there with Raploga out there. It's always nice to go back to that Brandon Riley catch. I believe it ended up being #1 in the top 10 for SportsCenter last week, but Riley...
He earned it.
Yeah.
Back to this run defense. Remember, they're 124th in the country, and they have been gutted by some teams that you wouldn't think would be competitive against them. Armstrong rifles that one. Pierson-El, touchdown. 40 yards. He beat Tim Kaysen, and the ball was right on the money from Armstrong.
And a nice moment for Pierson-El, who injured his knee last year at Purdue. Just a quick slant that the safety was a little out of position, Mosley. And Pierson-El showing that he is back. He's a very explosive player, a great returner, especially in the punt game. But it was last year against Purdue when he got hurt, so a nice moment for him to bounce back.
Brown for the point after to make it a 3-point ball game. And he's true. Nebraska needed a spark, and the combination of Armstrong and Pierson-El came through with it. 40 yards for a score, and the #8 team in the country regains the lead. Step back in time for ice cream. Just go to the old-time looking soda shop, Ivana Cone, situated in Lincoln's historic Haymarket district, where they make their own. If you've ever done that, you know what an absolute pain that is, turning that crank.
Well, they have ones with motors on them now.
No
actually.
fair. No fair.
You got to do it old school.
I had to do it as a kid on my great-grandfather's porch
while walking uphill.
That's all the way.
In snow.
With no socks. Let's go to Cassidy Hubbard.
Thanks, Mike. Taco Bell Studio update. Utah, UCLA. Joe Williams gone. 43 yards, his second TD, and the run put him over 100 yards rushing for the day. Utes up 24-21. And in Tuscaloosa, Trevor Knight. Take a look at this pass. 25 yards to Christian Kirk. Can't get any more perfect than that. Aggies now with the 14-13 lead. Mike, Ed, back to you.
Cassidy, thank you very much.
Don't forget, Trevor Knight was quarterback for Oklahoma. He torched Alabama in that Sugar Bowl in 2013. So he's got a little experience in torching the Crimson Tide.
How does Purdue handle this, falling behind now? Blau comes out immediately and throws a strike to D'Angelo Yancey.
Yeah, I think they're going to get Bilal Marshall downfield for a little bit of a clear out. Purdue has been running clear outs, not illegal ones, just having a bigger body, which Marshall at 6'2" is.
Offense, number 3, 15-yard penalty, first down.
You got it exactly right.
Top of the screen, Marshall
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can't drop the shoulder there. And, you know, the thing is, he doesn't have to. Because he's running his route and he runs directly into Aaron Williams, if he doesn't drop his shoulder there and just runs through him, he wouldn't be called for that. You're allowed to run into a guy. You're not allowed to dip your shoulder and try to block it.
That is only the third penalty of this ball game, all three against Purdue. Nebraska has not been flagged in this game. Big penalty, and now it's 1st and 22. Well, Blau's got to be used to starting near his own goal line. It's been that way the entire game. Four-man rush, throws underneath to his tight end Bryson Hopkins.
That's a nice gain after a penalty.
Get some of it back.
You know, and remember, Mike Riley's team, if there's one thing that they have completely flipped on its head, is how good they are in the fourth quarter this year versus last year. They really had their struggles. 4 of their first 6 games they lost last year in the last minute or in overtime. And this is a much improved team at the end of games. So now with a little bit of a lead, you're right, Mike. I think for Purdue, this is pretty, not a make or break, but a very important offensive series.
Maurice jumped. He's pointing at the center. Kirk Barron saying he did something to draw him off.
Offside. Defense, number 55, with contact. 5-yard penalty, 2nd down.
That argument falls on deaf ears. Even though Maurice is a senior, this is his first year as a starter. He did play a lot throughout his career as a backup.
And has played extremely well. John Perella, the new defensive line coach here. Of course, that's a great Husker name, Perella, who was a defensive captain here in the early 90s. But they lost 2 defensive tackles early to the NFL, Malik Collins and Vincent Valentine. And you're right, Maurice has played really well in his final season.
Blau throws another strike. This one to Cameron Posey.
Sign me up for the Blau camp. This guy can really play. Watching last week against Iowa, in a game that Iowa ran out to a big start, Blau had to try to bring him back. He's just trying to force a few things, throw an interception late, but man, he is on target and really on time. He feels really confident at the routes and the level that these guys are running. He's letting it go early.
He is 21 of 25. That's 84%. 264 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Well, that was good coverage that time. That looked like a completely off-thrown ball, but Kyron Williams, as a Nebraska Cornhusker, is down at the
Chris Jones.
Oh, they don't want to lose Chris Jones. Oh, that is a late hit on a quarterback.
Yes, it is.
That Freedom Akinmoladun should be called there for a late hit on the quarterback. I'm shocked that a flag was not thrown there. That ball was clearly out of his hand.
2 full steps.
Yeah,
Ed.
yeah. I'm shocked that was not called roughing the passer. And luckily, as Chris Jones gets up. Wow.
Ooh, 3 steps.
Yeah, that's unbelievable that was missed. And remember,
that has to be called.
There's an additional official now in the backfield. There's a center judge and a referee both watching and looking at the quarterback. And Akinmoladun is incredibly lucky that was not called. That was a penalty.
Well, they have dumped Blau about 75% of the times he's dropped back to throw, but that one was about the latest they've gotten to him.
Got a new corner now. Lamar Jackson, a true freshman, lined up over to the left right here. So if you're going to, and he's walked up like he's in press man-to-man coverage. Now Gary telling him to back out, the safety.
They think Jackson has a big upside as a freshman. Markel Jones again to about the 40. They need to reach the 46 for a first down. And there doesn't seem to be any kind of stress on these Purdue players right now. They seem very calm, very in control.
You know, after a half, if you're a player and you've been slugging it out with guys and you know you can play with them, all that's gone. Number 18, who cares? We've been playing, and that's what Jared Parker, the interim head coach, sold all week, is see if you can play with them. Well, they've been able to.
3rd and 6, the crowd really trying to stay in it. 5-man rush. Blau with time and throws just a half step past Hopkins.
And I think Nate Gary just got away with a hold on Hopkins. Nope.
No, didn't turn him at all.
No, he did not. He put his hands on him, which is legal. It was that right hand that looked to me like he was turning him, but he did not change his route. That was, although it was a little handsy, I don't think that was pass interference.
He's a 2-time captain for this club. He's on the Thorpe Award list. He has 11 career interceptions. This kid has been a heck of a player for
Please
Nebraska.
reset the clock to 25 seconds. 2-5. Thank you.
And there has to be what they call an obvious intent to disrupt the receiver for defensive pass interference. And clearly, right at the start of the play, it looked like it. But when you went back, Gary had nice position. And the good job is, even though that right arm was wrapped around him, he didn't grab and didn't pull with it, which is sometimes what you'll see happen.
Schopper can't get it to turn over. It bounces sideways, but out of bounds inside the 20, which has been his specialty. Let's see what Nebraska does with the lead. Got the answer to our Aflac trivia question, which was, when was the last time Purdue beat a top 10 team on the road? Have to go back a ways. It was 1974. They defeated Parsegian and number 2 Notre Dame on the road. That's a win that will last forever in Boilermaker annals.
Was your old partner Joe Theismann the quarterback at Notre Dame then?
74, no. He would have been in the Canadian League by then.
Well, let's just say he was, for purposes of our...
It was Tom Clements on Cole. Nebraska back with the football. Pass completed for about 10. And then the tight end pushed out of bounds. No flag on that either.
Ball was awfully close to the ground. Let's see if it did, in fact, touch it. That's not a catch. Now let's see if they review it. And that's a big deal because that's a 9-yard gain on first down, which
did ruin on the field. The previous play was a reception.
You know, we saw Armstrong, and they're going to review that. I just don't see how they're going to let that play stand. Nope. Remember, if he would have controlled it and it touched the ground, it can be a catch. But he does not. Right there is where he loses control just for a beat while it's touching the ground. And I'll be shocked if this is not overturned upon review. And the Big Ten now allowing the officials on the field to help in the review. They do not make the final call. The replay official today is Dennis Lipsky. He's the one who would make the final call, but that's referee Jerry McGinn. He can give some input.
I think it's a great way to do it.
Yeah, I like that the Big Ten has included the on-field officials in looking at it. Again, they don't have, they can give some input and some say, but it would be called from upstairs. But why not? These guys are the guys who are closest to the game. They're the ones who are working the most and studying the most. I think having them involved in the decision is a smart idea.
The more eyes on it, the better. This stadium holds 86,047. Today's attendance, not only is a sellout, there's 4,500 people standing room, 90,546. And this has been sold out since November 3rd, 1962.
And I just heard the University of Nebraska got a ticket from the fire marshal. They're a little over capacity.
No, fire marshal got a seat on the 50.
He's okay.
Usually you go into a town and you hear this is the toughest ticket in town. There is no ticket for this.
Further review, it is an incomplete pass. Be second down and 10. Please reset the clock at 4:40.
Lincoln, Nebraska is one of the coolest places to come see a college football game. To see the amount of people who descend on this place covered in red.
It's neat, isn't it?
It is really cool. It's a neat town. It's a really good city. They've got plenty going on. And when this town gets revved up for a football game, it is really cool. It's fun to be here.
Downtown is very charming, too.
Yeah, it's a neat place.
Very nice.
And that's what Mike Riley and his staff, now that parents are allowed to come on recruiting visits on the dime of the school, he said it's been a big help, because when parents come here, when student athletes do finally get here to visit, they love it.
Pierson-El on the screen as they fake it one way, go back the other. Pierson-El up to about the 23. They have to reach the 28 for a first down. Jalen Robinson and Jawan Bentley, the middle linebacker, kept at it and brought him down.
Defensive coordinator Ross Els for Purdue has some history here at Nebraska. He was a linebackers coach under Bo Pelini. Took a year off of coaching, now back for Purdue. This is a big third down for Coach Els and his group. We've been talking about Purdue's offense. You get a stop here. Put your offense right back out. Big down for them.
Armstrong has the first down to Brandon Riley. You know, you mentioned Ross Els. There is a flag down, by the way. Ross Els did one of the neatest things that I've ever heard of. Didn't have a job. He wanted his kids to be able to stay here. It was their senior year in high school, so he didn't coach in college.
Offense, number 84. Half the distance to the goal, third down.
It's a pick on offense against Cotton. He didn't coach in college, so his kids could stay here in Lincoln and go to the same high school for their senior year. That is tremendous sacrifice as a father.
Yeah, when Bo Pelini's staff was let go, Ross Els and his wife had twin son and daughter who were about to go into their senior year. So instead of taking another job, he decided to help out at the high school and spent some time going to NFL schools and other colleges just to continue to be around the game at that level, and then was given the job as defensive coordinator when a change was made on the defensive staff by Darrell Hazel.
3rd and 16 for Armstrong, trying to keep the chains moving, and Armstrong with a bullet to Brandon Riley, and it's enough for a first down, a gain of 24. When this kid's mechanics are correct and you give him a little time, he is just deadly.
And for Nebraska to have someone like Riley healthy finally, he's been battling some hamstring injuries. When you have Jordan Westcamp out and Ethan Carter, a really explosive tight end, it's nice to have 87 start to make some things happen. Good throw on timing, too, right when he was coming out of his break. Armstrong was getting the ball there.
Armstrong and the keeper, Newby in front. Armstrong gets about 7, maybe 8, before Marcus Bailey brings him down.
And what a great conversion by Armstrong after the penalty when they called Sam Cotton for the pick on the first down completion by Riley. Goes right back to Riley, and now once again we're seeing a little more quarterback run today than we've seen from Tommy Armstrong, who's been battling an ankle injury since Illinois. Clearly he's feeling better.
From the 42, second and about 4. Armstrong again. Flag is down. That could be a face mask.
That'll be a big penalty if it is. You've got him to 3rd down again.
Armstrong shaking his head. That'll get your attention.
Personal foul, face mask, defense, number 18, 15-yard penalty. Be added on the end of the run, automatic, first down.
Teddy Wilson, the nose tackle, and if a 6'4", 300-pound guy grabs your face mask, you're going to know it.
Yeah, not, obviously not intentional. Well, I got to say, that to me, that does not look like a personal foul. That looks like one you don't call. I know that he grabbed the face mask. I did not see the head move at all from Tommy Armstrong. I think this should be 3rd and 1 instead of 1st and 10.
Newby, and again penetration. Anthony Neal came roaring through. They've done that about 6 times, being able to get in the backfield.
Neal, a true freshman out of Houston, Texas, getting a lot more play, goes right behind the center, Dylan Utter. But Neal getting a lot of play with Jake Raplogle out, their best defensive lineman, and this is a big guy, 6'2", 345, true freshman.
The defense has really stepped up today. Underneath, complete, Stanley Morgan Jr. And even though they have been unable to run the ball with the backs, 13 carries for 14 yards, Armstrong has bailed them out both with his legs and his arm.
Farmer, the guard came down and was looking to peel some people off the pile, and he nailed Eddie Wilson. Wilson a little slow to get up, but Farmer's got to be careful. You go down and start peeling people off the pile, you're going to get a personal foul. That was close to a personal foul by Farmer.
They have had some shots that have been on the edge. Newby gets a couple. Tonight, catch an SEC Top 25 game on ESPN at 9. Number 25 LSU will play host to number 23 Ole Miss. You can also watch it streaming live on the ESPN app or watch ESPN. Always a treat to be at LSU on a Saturday night.
Of course, Danny Etling now the starting quarterback at LSU. He was a starting quarterback for Purdue a few years ago. Of course, graduate transfer rule.
That was one of the problems for the program. They just couldn't keep a quarterback. They kept rotating guys. People would transfer out and go to other schools. It was just a tough situation.
They lost 2 quarterbacks, Purdue did, with Austin Appleby, who went to Florida. Both guys starting at least 1 point this season.
They may have the right guy now, though, don't you think?
Yeah, he can play. Blau can really play.
3 quarters in the books. Nebraska hanging on to their lead as the number 8 team in the country. This presentation will continue after this message and a word from our ABC station. You're watching the Big Ten on ABC, and we go to the 4th quarter in Lincoln, Nebraska, with number 8 leading Purdue 17-14. The only score of the second half, a touchdown from Mike Riley's Cornhuskers, who are the leaders in college football in scoring margin and turnover margin at this point after the turnovers they had today. Newby is the tailback. 3rd and inches. And they've got the first down.
And what a big turn of events for Nebraska last year. A tough start to the Mike Riley era when they lost 4 of their first 6 ball games in the last minute or overtime. And this year's been the total flip. At this time last year, they were getting ready to go play Purdue. Then they lost to Purdue on Halloween, and they were 2-6. It was the first time in program history that they had ever lost 6 games before the start of November. So it's a little different year this season.
Armstrong with a pump fake. They're going to whistle this play dead. Flag is down, and they are pointing at the Nebraska side.
Offense, number 82. 5-yard penalty.
Let's go to Cassidy Hubbard. Cassidy?
Thanks, Mike. Let's go back to Tuscaloosa. Aggies up 14-13 after 2 straight scores, but the Tide regained the lead after this Jalen Hurts to Calvin Ridley connection. Bama up 20-14 in the 3rd. Mike, Ed?
Thank you, Cassidy. 1st and 15 for Nebraska. They are in field goal territory. Off the right side goes Alonzo Moore. Yards for a score. They have had so much trouble running the ball, and then Moore breaks a big one.
What an excellent job by Moore staying in bounds. It looked to me like he was going to get knocked out. Wow. Excellent job. That was number 24, Tim Kaysen, who came over and not able to get enough of a hand on his hip to knock him out. Good job walking the sideline there.
Brown for the point after. And Nebraska has extended its lead to 10 points on the strength of a methodical 82-yard drive that took almost 6 minutes off the clock. Finally, a little breathing room for the Huskers as they're up by 10 over Purdue with 14:05. Still a lot of time left.
And if you're just tuning in and you see the top 10 ranked Nebraska team only up 10 against a 3-3 Purdue team, that's what they've done all year. Nebraska has almost every game has been close through 3 quarters, and then they have just been brilliant in the 4th. And with that, we'll take a look at today's good hands play. And it was a tough year last year for Nebraska at Purdue. An 83-yard touchdown to D'Angelo Yancey was the longest play in the career of young quarterback David Blau until today, when he hit D'Angelo Yancey for an 88-yard touchdown in a first half that was mind-blowing. Nebraska jumped out to a 7-0 lead with 16 seconds off the clock and looked like it was going to be a runaway. And then Blau with his throwing, and Yancey with 2 touchdowns has kept it competitive.
That's the good hands play brought to you by Allstate. Purdue can throw it, and they may have to do that now, down 2 scores. Blau with time underneath off the hands of his tight end Cole Herdman. And we go to Jerry Punch. Doc, what do you have?
After the last possession, Purdue offensive line coach Darryl Funk spent a lot of time with his offensive linemen trying to work on some protections, given the fact that Nebraska has adjusted some stunts and brought some different pressures in the second half. Worked on protections to give Blau a little extra time to throw the football.
I'm sure he would appreciate it. He spent a lot of this game on his back. Four-man rush, pressure coming, but he gets it out to his running back, Jones. And Jones turns it into a good gain. They'll mark him out of bounds. Shy of the 30, they have to reach the 35 for a first down.
And Cameron Sermon, the left tackle, is out now. Michael Mendez has moved over to that left tackle spot. Sermon was injured last week against Iowa. They weren't sure if he was going to be able to go. So we've been talking about shorthanded O-line. This O-line is very shorthanded for Purdue. Martese Patterson, the normal start at left tackle, suspended indefinitely. Cameron Sermon now out. This is the 5th player who has played left tackle for Purdue this year. You don't want to be starting out with that side being a little green when you have to throw it.
No, you really need the blind side of the quarterback protected. And he throws behind Marshall, who was open, but didn't get his head around in time either.
Well, I think Blau starting to feel that the pressure may be coming. This is just a 4-man rush. Akinmoladun had completely beat the left tackle Mendez, so getting it out just a little too early. And Marshall was there. Marshall had a little bit of space and was right near the yard to make for first down.
This is Shopper.
I'm not sure you want to punt to this guy. Before he was injured, he's one of the best return men in the country.
It's a fake. And the throw is incomplete up at the 48. Bilal Marshall, the former high school quarterback and actually the 3rd quarterback on this team if they have an emergency, was throwing for Dotson.
I like the call by the young head coach. You know, there was a fake the other night, BYU, Boise State, where BYU tried it from their own 2 in the second quarter. But here you are in the 4th quarter, down 10 against the team that you've got to suspect Nebraska is going to be able to run the ball and run out this clock. So I don't mind it. And you know what? It was open.
Yes, it was
open. Yeah, the throw was open, and Marshall just wasn't able to get it there.
Well, those are the plays you pull off if you're going to upset the number 8 team in the country on their turf. Newby straight up the middle, big hole. Newby down to the 10.
Well, Newby has been the guy that Nebraska has wound up and let go in the 4th quarter against Illinois and last week against Indiana. And now you start to see the offensive line get a little push. You're starting to see the white jerseys not coming off the blocks as easily. And this is the time of the game where 34 starts to take over.
Nebraska has had a tradition of great offensive linemen. And one of the guys that's out there right now is the left guard, Sam Hahn. Number 73. He started his career at North Dakota State, left Nebraska. He grew up on a farm. He said he realized once he got to North Dakota State, which is a terrific championship program, that he had spent the entire spring irrigating the crops, and when it came fall, he couldn't stand the thought that he wouldn't be there to see them come in. He was So upset about not being with his family on the farm that he decided he was going to leave, came back, worked on the farm. He has walked on at Lincoln. He still doesn't have a scholarship, and he's a senior, and he's doing a heck of a job at left guard.
Don't they have farming in South Dakota?
Yes, but not his. Martinez overthrows Morgan. Boy, was he open.
Yeah, and this is one of those ones where Armstrong on long throws, he will occasionally fall back from the throw. And it's all about the release point of the ball. If you're falling back, you cannot control your release point if you're not stepping into it. And this is one of the things the senior really has to work on. I know there's a little bit of pressure from Bailey, but if he steps into that throw, I think you have a walk-in touchdown for Stanley Morgan because he was breaking wide open.
He needs one more completion, does Armstrong, to beat Taylor Martinez's record for career completions. And even his speed and agility isn't going to get him out of this one. And the first guy put on pressure was number 21, Marcus Bailey. And then it was cleaned up by Anthony Neal, who's made some really big plays. And that's a loss of 14.
Wow. And all of a sudden, with a missed touchdown throw, and now a big sack. Good late blitz by Bailey. He was just reading the quarterback. He's the guy who's standing there in case Armstrong takes off, and it just collapsed on Tommy Armstrong. And now you're in a position where I'm not sure you're not even in field goal range anymore.
Well, it's 3rd and goal from the 34.
That's an easy call.
Armstrong, the time now, is being pressured. And throws short and incomplete down at the 16 where Stanley Morgan was out there again. And now do you try a 51, 52-yard field goal, or do you do the safe thing and punt it?
The worry here is if Drew Brown drives this ball and they're bringing Brown in. Remember, the defense for Purdue has gotten a lot of penetration. And on these longer kicks, the tendency is to drive the ball and not quite get as much height. So my fear if I'm Nebraska here is getting this thing blocked in return. You're already up 2 scores. This keeps you up 2 scores. And the risk is, what if it's blocked?
This is 51. Would have been good from 61. That's a bomb. That's his career long. But as you can see, there's a lot more in it. There is a flag down, however. The officials talking about it. He may get a shot at a longer field goal.
After the field goal, which was good, after the play, unsportsmanlike conduct, Nebraska, number 58, it's his first of the game. There'll be a 15-yard penalty enforced on the kickoff.
It's Corey Whitaker, a backup lineman.
And luckily for him, it was after the play, so they don't take the points off the board, and they're up 2 touchdowns.
Weekend for Nebraska's women's volleyball team. The defending national champs and current number 1 team in the country swept number 4 Wisconsin last night and is hosting number 3 Minnesota tomorrow afternoon. Congratulations. Nebraska now up 2 scores even after the field goal. On the return. Now let's take a look at the AT&T inside access.
But the anthem starts at 13:30 on the game clock, and they want to be on top at 12:15 on the game clock. We're good.
Lieutenant Commander Scott Sabo. He's on top of the roof, and the pilots are listening to him sing the national anthem so that they can be within a second right on top of the stadium when the national anthem is over with 2 F-18s. That way, as the anthem finishes, the flyover starts. They're from VFA 122 The Flying Eagles out of Naval Air Station in Lemoore, California, flown by Lieutenant Daniel Brannon, Lieutenant Matthew Langford, and Lieutenant Commander William Frank. Also on the crew, Aurora, Nebraska native Lieutenant Brett Mitchell. He's in the Nebraska College of Business graduate.
Well, and Scott Sabo, the guy who was singing, I think he missed a couple of words in there on the anthem. If we're keeping score, but he is a Purdue grad. He was very proud of his Purdue shirt as he opened it up there. And unfortunately for Nebraska, a player down, and that's Chris Jones, who was down earlier. Yeah.
There's the whole group being honored here at this fourth quarter in the sold-out stadium. Yes, sir. Proud of the job you guys do. And Jones being assisted off the field the second time he's needed help.
And up 13, up 2 touchdowns, and knowing you're going to get a rip of throws here, Jones not a guy you want to miss. He's been their most productive defensive back so far this year.
Blau rolls out of trouble this time, looking to throw, and nobody opening, throws it away.
Well, there's a lot of talk about whether Nebraska's a top 10 team or not. And I don't know that we know the answer to that yet, but here's what I know they do. They win. They're beating every team that they play. And you say, oh, well, they're going to go play at Wisconsin and at Ohio State, and this team doesn't have a chance. I don't think you can say that, because Tommy Armstrong, he can throw it. I know he can be up and down. Terrell Newby is an awfully good back, and if you get Jordan Westerkamp back and at some point Sethan Carter, who knows if this offense can improve. So is Nebraska a top 10 team? I don't know, but we're going to know in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think that will be a pretty good test there. Both very physical football teams. In Westerkamp, we are told, expected back next week. Carter maybe 2 weeks. Up for grabs. Nebraska football. Kyron Williams picked it off, his second of the day.
And D'Angelo Yancey is down still for Purdue.
Yancey was open, wasn't he? Had to wait for a while.
Well, the ball was thrown a little bit late and under, and Yancey did a great job of coming back to the ball. But look at Williams, kept his eye on it from that center field position, knows he's going to make contact. That's an awesome play by Williams.
Lamar Jackson came over on the coverage. We told you they expect a lot out of him the rest of his career. But this secondary, they're pretty good ball hawks.
13 interceptions on the season. They coming in with 11. They were tied with Ohio State for first in the conference, 2 today.
Think you'll see a little 34 here?
Well, and I feel bad for Purdue and their defensive line, because they played great, but right now I think the levee's going to break on them a little bit. Nick Stoltenberg, big defensive lineman, coming over to give a high five. Remember, this was last week when we talked to Mike Riley before Indiana. He goes, guys, our pass defense last year might have been the worst in history. So the fact that we've made this big of an improvement, obviously good coaching and what they've done schematically, but these young men have really taken it upon themselves and really improved.
And we can check in now with Cassidy Hubbard.
Thanks, Mike. A&M and Bama. Keith Ford would cough up the football here. Jonathan Allen scoops and scores. Alabama with their 12th non-offensive touchdown on the season. That's 6 more than any other school. 2-point conversion failed. It's 26-14 tied in the fourth. Mike, get back to you.
You know, the difference with Alabama is that you may have a 300-pounder and they've got a 300-pounder, but theirs runs a 4.6.
And unfortunately, a 300-pounder for Purdue is down. Lorenzo Neal, who's been playing really well
today.
Yeah, he really has. Remember, Jake Raplogle, the best defensive player for Purdue, defensive tackle, senior, not able to go. Nice to see Neal bounce up. But yeah, Nick Saban down at Alabama. The coaches in the SEC joke that he has built a defensive lineman factory underneath the stadium, because they go 2 and 3 deep at every position, and they're all 290 plus, and they all run like that.
And there's 12 of them.
Yeah.
You hear other SEC coaches say, look, We've got 6 defensive linemen, sometimes 7, that can play in this league, and we rotate them. He's got 12. Nothing wrong with being jealous of Nick Saban. Nebraska really starting to get it going here in the second half, and on both sides of the ball. They've held Purdue to 58 total yards here in the second half.
You know, going back to whether this is a top 10 team or not, here's what I'll say. But below Alabama and Ohio State, which I think clearly have the best personnel across the board. Every position is probably as good or better than most teams. Below that, it's kind of a scramble to see who's the next 3, 4, 5, 6 teams. Well, Mike Riley's group has earned the right to be in that conversation. You can't say they haven't.
Sure.
I mean, you can say they haven't done this, or they haven't played that team, or they haven't done that. But day by day, they get better and better.
And stay undefeated. Well, like you said, the next 2 weeks we're going to find out something. Armstrong up for grabs. Great play by Morgan. Again, the defender never got around to see the ball, and Morgan was just playing center field and came down with it. And for Armstrong, he is now the completion leader in the history of Nebraska football with 375, breaking the record of Taylor Martinez.
And he got a big assist there from Morgan. Another one of those throw off your back foot, little underthrow.
Kaysen was there, but he never saw it.
Morgan, part of a group of players out of Louisiana. We talked about the national recruiting footprint of this program. They have a nice pipeline into the state of Louisiana.
Newby again. So for Armstrong, he now leads Nebraska quarterbacks in touchdown passes, career yards, and completions. Heck of a career. Tonight, after a full day of college football, don't miss SportsCenter at night over on ESPN with Briscoe and Bucci. They'll have a complete coverage of Game 6 of the NLCS, as well as college football, NFL news, everything else from the day in sports. SportsCenter at night after Ole Miss and LSU.
Well, the clock's starting to tick for Purdue. We knew we were going to see a bunch of newbie. I'm surprised if they throw it.
Armstrong bobbles the snap under pressure, uses his speed to get to the outside.
Wasn't able to handle the snap from Dylan Utter. Puts a little heat on it. That was right on the money. Nice job with the stiff arm on Robinson.
And with all those passing records, maybe the best thing he does is get out of trouble and be able to run.
And he's a guy who's been quite hampered by a left ankle injury. The bye week before Indiana last week, he was not practicing much, walking around in a protected boot. So nice to see him getting healthier for the stretch run of his senior year. And he put a nice throw on right in front of the first down, although, no, they're giving it to him. Boy, that was and Armstrong comes up gimping, and a flag is thrown late. I'm not sure what happened here at the end of the play, but I think they're going to call Eddie Wilson. And Armstrong was down on the ground.
Personal foul. Targeting. Defense. Number 18.
Wow.
The play's under further review.
That's Eddie Wilson. They're going to take a look at this. And Armstrong told us the other day he's had a history of ankle problems. Watch this.
Oh, well, and Armstrong does a really nice job of throwing his head back. I think that this is going to be overturned.
I do too.
Yeah, Eddie Wilson's contact is in the shoulder. Armstrong did a wonderful job of throwing his head back, and I don't blame the referee for calling targeting. They're called if they're taught, if there's any confusion, throw it and then let replay peel it back. To me, this is not targeting. Watch where the contact is by Wilson. Oh, well, wait a minute.
It's
now
close.
They can get, but they can get, remember, the crown of the helmet now. The crown of the helmet now is defined as just above where the face mask starts. So while there is not in my opinion, forcible contact to the head or neck area. If you get called for targeting with the crown of the helmet, it doesn't matter where the
defender number 18 hit the quarterback in the shoulder. There is no targeting. Number 18 ran in the game.
I think that's a good call.
I do too. And the only thing I was saying is there's two different rules for targeting. One is hitting a defensive player with any part of your body with forcible contact to the head of their neck, or hitting with the crown of the helmet. Clearly, the contact is below the helmet. The question was, could you get for crown of the helmet? I think it's the right call not to have crown of the helmet called here, meaning Wilson made contact with the crown, which starts at the top of the face mask now, although very close. I think it was the right idea to pull that off. I don't think Eddie Wilson. The other part, too, as Wilson made contact, his head came up, and the force was going up. He was not targeting or going through the player. I think that was a good reversal by the replay crew.
And that takes away the personal foul as well. Newby.
But you know what it didn't take away, Mike? Was a really nice throw and a good read by a senior quarterback.
Anthony Neal is back in there for Purdue, by the way. That kid, he is really coming on as a defensive lineman. And he looks really odd in that number 9 jersey.
He does. 345 pounds. Good to have
another number on there, you know, just to fill it out.
You don't like the dead space?
No.
In the jersey?
2nd and 12. We're down to 5:07 and counting. And around Alonzo Moore had a big run earlier on this play.
And going back, I want to clear up that targeting call that was pulled off, because that's a real bone of contention for Nebraska. Nate Gary last year was thrown out twice. So they really, at Nebraska, talk about that targeting. The reason I think it was pulled off is the beginning of the rule says there has to be targeting, and that means someone is launching through, leaving their feet, doing some type of action that is not a shoulder tackle or a form tackle. Even though it looked like Wilson's crown of his helmet right above the face mask did make contact with Armstrong, he was pulling up, his head was coming up, so he wasn't targeting through. Again, I think it was a good overturn by the official.
3rd and 12, Armstrong overthrows Brandon Riley, who was open. Now 4th down. We may get to see Drew Brown try the long one.
It would have been good from 60 last time Brown was out. He's got a little wind at his back, but this is
this would only be 46.
Open. Armstrong's going to want that one back when they look at film.
Yeah, Riley made a nice move to get clear. He's hit from 30 and 51. This one from 45. For him, it's like a chip shot. Whew. Boy, what a leg. That thing just explodes when it comes off his foot, but he was a little wide with it. Distance has not been a problem. Let's take a look at our Pacific Life game summary. 13-point lead. Blau with 23 out of 33. 278 yards and a couple of scores. Armstrong has come through again for Nebraska, over 300 total yards, a couple of scoring throws as well, and he's done it with his feet too. Blau back to throw. Purdue needing 2 scores, and they need them in the next 4 minutes and 6 seconds. No matter what happens the rest of this game, it is going to be, that first half is going to be something that Jared Parker remembers the rest of his career, no matter how it ends up.
35 years old, found out Sunday at noon he was going to be the interim head coach. It's something he's dreamed about since childhood.
Wow, very athletic. Nice move. Gets out to the 38-yard line. He's hit only 2 of his last 9 throws, however.
And when we talked to Parker on Wednesday, really impressive guy, and we asked him, why do you think you can be a head coach? And the first thing he said is, I feel like I've worked my whole career to have an uncommon relationship with players. He served as the recruiting coordinator, which is the main guy who reaches goes out and makes sure that the recruits know about the program and what they're doing. And when Mike Babinski, the athletic director, met with him, and that was the first thing he said, why I want you to have this. It's obvious the players like you. They respond to you. And here's another piece to it. He's been the wide receiver coach at Purdue. One of the most productive groups under Darrell Hazel has been the wide receiver group. He's a really good coach, and the rest of the team saw that out of the productivity and work ethic of his room.
Three-man rush, so they're dropping 8 into coverage. And a good job by Dedrick Young to get over there and knock that one down from his weak side linebacker spot.
Yeah, there's no reason for Mark Banker, the defensive coordinator for Nebraska, to push and press and get a bunch of blitzes going. It's going to take a lot for Purdue to earn this one. And also Banker knows that Terrell Newby and the offense can melt the clock. They had a 6-minute drive even though they missed the field goal. They certainly did shorten the game.
Well, he'll give them all the 5-yard throws they want.
Yeah, they are off, man, and getting farther before the snap.
Perfect strike to the tight end, Herdman.
And a great tackle by Kyron Williams. This is what you want your safety to do. If you're going to play off and you're going to allow the team to throw it underneath of you, you better make the tackle. And Williams that time held on by one arm to make the tackle.
Gain of 23. This one goes to the sideline. That thing was a bullet. No wonder Marshall couldn't hold it. Well, there's reach for that one in self-defense.
And that doesn't really help you. That's just a couple-yard gain, whether he catches it or not. I will say I do like the railroad tracks over the top on the helmet.
That's
look.
cool.
Of course, the Boilermakers is their nickname.
Second and 10. Wow, under a lot of pressure, throws over the middle, and Herdman was drilled as that ball hung up. Antonio Reed really got his shoulder into that one.
And give Reed credit here. One of the things that Nebraska has been doing this year, and you can see Herdman maybe asking for a little help here. I like the crossbody. They've gone to a rugby-style tackling this year and take your head out of it. You can still make big hits. You can still cause the ball to pop out without driving your head first. That was a nice job by Reed. Good hard hit without involving his head.
And Blau got crushed again when he let that one go. Deep out, too high, almost picked. Off the fingertips of the tight end Hopkins, and Antonio Reed right there again.
Nate Gary almost made an interception that looked like Brandon Riley's catch from last week against Indiana.
On his back.
Yeah, that ball landed in Gary's lap.
Last call for Purdue, 4th and 10.
I think they're going to order a Boilermaker.
And why not? For whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. Blau airs one out, jump ball, picked and dropped twice. Williams was right there. He had a shot at it, went through his hands, and then D'Angelo Yancey had a shot at it. It would have been a touchdown.
How crazy is this game if this is, instead of an interception, becomes a touchdown and an onside kick?
Oh.
He even tried to kick it back to himself.
The chances for Purdue may have died on that tip that could have been intercepted, could have been caught for a touchdown. And Blau's brilliant day is only a couple of minutes away from ending.
I always say, though, after firing a coach and coming into a tough environment against a top 10 team, Purdue has nothing to have to be disappointed about.
No, they can hold their heads high on the way home, that's for sure.
False start. Offense. Number 73. 5-yard penalty. First down.
Tonight on ABC, the annual whiteout game at Beaver Stadium as Penn State plays host to number 2 Ohio State. Tonight, 8 Eastern on ABC, as well as streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN.
That's an annual whitewash game?
Whiteout.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Washout? What?
Whiteout. Out.
They're playing the Buckeyes.
Got to pay attention. 1st and 15. Oh, movie. What a cut.
And balance.
Still on his feet.
And brilliantly stayed in bounds,
Yep.
even though it only would have cost them a few extra seconds.
Yes.
But man, this guy really has an ability to make a shortcut. He'd already made a guy miss to the outside, and this time he does that drill you see running backs do all the time where they spin around and put their hand on the ground, and then very wisely goes down to the ground.
What balance.
And unfortunately for Purdue, they're running out of chances. Even with 3 timeouts, they're getting to a place where this game is going to go in the books.
6.4 yards a carry. And he's a lot stronger than he looks at 200 pounds. He really is.
And they have depth at that position. They have some bigger. We have not seen Ezigbo today. He's been a guy who's been battling an ankle injury. And Purdue takes one of their 3 timeouts.
We only saw Wilbon a couple of times. I don't know if Trey Bryant played more than a couple of plays. We're going to check in with Jerry Punch. Doctor?
Mike, we're all familiar with the tragic story of the Nebraska punter Sam Foltz losing his life in an accident back in July. Although he isn't here, the team, Mike Riley and company, say that his spirit lives on. Yet they lay that jersey on the end of the bench. And every game when they come out, there's his dad, Gerald, his mom, Jill. They come and they hug the players as they come out and tap the jersey. Even Purdue brought a 27 in Purdue colors today to pay honor to the fallen punter. And last week when Nebraska went to Indiana and played the toughest game they played of the year, guess how many points they scored to win? 27. And today, if they hold on, look at the scoreboard. 27 points they scored. Yeah, the spirit of Sam Foltz is alive and well.
Jerry, you get to me every week. You really do.
What an amazing. And it was one of those things that rocked this community. You know, the Nebraska fans, they care about wins and losses, but they care about the players more. They have an honest rooting interest in these players doing well, staying healthy, doing well in their life after football. And this rocks not just the team, but the whole community.
Give it to Riley, flanker around after a collision in the backfield. A flag is down, and so is Riley at the 33.
You know, the one thing you're sitting undefeated going into your toughest stretch against Wisconsin and Ohio State, at least you have a lot to work on.
Yes,
right? I mean, you
sure
think of the improvement. We've seen Nebraska 2 weeks in a row. We studied them before the Indiana game. And Mike Riley even said last week after Indiana, well, that was a sloppy win. This is a team that just kind of, it just takes a while to get its footing.
Play by both teams. Legal block in the back. Offense, number 66. Personal foul. Defense, number 68. 68 is on the block in the back. 95 is the personal foul. Foul's offset. 2nd down.
So we're just doing it all over again. That's what that amounts to.
And Purdue used their timeout because the clock would have started.
Ed, we talked about how good Nebraska is for the last 2 weeks. Well, in the next 2 weeks on one of the ESPN networks, we may determine how good they really are. Next Saturday, they'll be in Madison to take on the number 10 Badgers, who have beaten the Huskers the last 3 times they have played. Then the following Saturday, November 5th, the Cornhuskers will be in the shoe to meet up with number 2 Ohio State. 2 very talented, physical teams. And right there, and what was that, 88% chance?
Well, but, you know, for Nebraska, they're sitting undefeated in the West. Wisconsin has 2 losses. Iowa now has 2 losses. Northwestern with only one loss, but that was to Nebraska. So Nebraska can lose.
2.
Yeah, so Nebraska can lose one game on the way out. They should have Jordan Westerkamp back. They're hoping next week. Their most productive wide receiver. And so this is a team that is in unbelievably good shape. You can say, yeah, they're going to go 0-2 the next 2 weeks. I wouldn't buy that. They go 1-1 and win out. They're playing for the Big Ten championship. Or 2-0, obviously.
Yes, for sure. Ball may have come loose afterward, or they're just pushing and shoving on top of it. And you wouldn't want to see this game end this way. It's been played too well by both teams.
And the Purdue player was going in for the ball. It looked like Evan Panfill at the end of the game, and now they're going to throw another flag. It looked like some of the offensive linemen for Nebraska were getting into it with the officials.
It was Nick Gates who was really upset.
Gates was upset because he got jumped on by Panfill at the end there, and I don't think he realized Panfill thought he was going for the ball.
Yeah, Gates thought it was a cheap shot.
Gates, who has been battling through an ankle all day, a guy with a really high upside. Coaches think very highly of him, think he has a great future, just a sophomore, but he got hit by Panfill. Well, that was a finish. Sorry, that was the finish of a play. That was Panfill and another player going down. Then Gates goes to pull him off the pile. And then as they kept scrapping and the officials are pulling him back, they threw another flag.
We have multiple fouls on the play.
Here we go again.
Personal foul offense, personal foul defense. After the play, unsportsmanlike conduct. Offense, number 68, 15-yard penalty, third down.
Yeah, Gates continued to jaw and got called for the personal foul, and Jerry McGinn, the referee, wisely not using numbers that time on the first time around, just saying that one doesn't count. And I can see where Gates got upset. He saw his pal get slammed to the ground and went over there, but it was after he got pulled off the pile that Gates was called by the officials for the personal foul.
So basically the first two penalties offset each other. The late penalty is assessed.
Yeah.
And let's just let the clock run and get out of here. Play counted, so it's third down now 18. But I don't think Nebraska cares about the yardage. They just care there's only 1:39 left in the game.
Well, you know, it's enough time if you're Nebraska. I know you're down 2 scores, or you're up 2 scores. But this is enough time for you to think, okay, we have to burn some more of this clock off before we're going to give the ball. So
and Purdue's out of time.
Yeah, so you got to think on third down this is going to be a Terrell Newby run.
Yes, 34 gets it, and then you just watch the clock tick,
and then even you're going to be under a minute left by the time you punt it back to Purdue. So with no timeouts and down 2 scores, pretty safe for Nebraska. The only thing that could be disastrous is if Newby or whomever they let carry the ball fumbles. And Purdue gets good field position.
Barring a timeout, they'll have to punt it with around 50 seconds to go on the clock. But they do have all 3 of theirs left. They could let it run down to 1 second and call time, or just take the 5-yard penalty and punt it anyway.
And for Tommy Armstrong becoming one of the top quarterbacks in the history of this program. But he will keep your heart in your throats if you are a Nebraska fan, because as talented as he is, he will occasionally fall back and heave one up to the other team. And we saw that interception in the first half that kept things competitive for Purdue, but he settled down nicely in the second half. And I've only seen a couple of throws where you could say, okay, your form wasn't great there. I feel like you should add something in there. And Tommy, we kind of trust.
Newby lowers his shoulder and just plows into the center of the line.
And for Purdue, this has just got to be a painful minute 30 to sit through. They came in here, went down 7-0 in the first 16 seconds of the game. New head coach Jared Parker, the interim head coach, took over for Darrell Hazel. They tried a halfback pass on the first play that was intercepted. Tommy Armstrong walked in from the 22-yard line on the first offensive play, and then And then all of a sudden the pass game for Purdue showed up.
And I know everybody was thinking the same thing after the first 16 seconds. Oh, this could be 56-0. This could be an absolute disaster. And you wouldn't have blamed the players if they'd gone in the tank after that. That's a heck of a way to start on the road against undefeated number 8. But they sucked it up and they played really hard.
And David Blau, you know, Dr. Punch made the report that after that interception, Blau ran up and down the sideline saying, we got this. We're okay. We're okay. And he came out and delivered.
Yes, he did.
He really played well. And this is just a sophomore. Again, Darrell Hazel gone as the head coach. And
is this a 5-minute timeout, or am I missing something?
Well, I think Nebraska took their timeout there. The referee, that's funny. Jerry McGinn got on his microphone and told Nebraska to get out here and play some ball. That was great.
He's got a dinner reservation. Lightborn's job is just to kick it as fast as he can. And they got a piece of it.
But not enough. Wow.
That was so close to being a huge play.
And that would have been, and is, because it was blocked. That's the third blocked punt. We saw one last week against Indiana that was a safety. And this has just been an Achilles heel. They are terrible in net punting, under 30 yards in net punting. And this is the third time this year that someone has gotten a hand on it.
Well, guess who? It was the big guy again, Anthony Neal.
And Neal's just trying to get out of the way. Didn't even try to put his hands out to get that one. And Lightborn, they're not going to call running into the kicker because the ball was tipped.
So now 42 seconds left. And they come out throwing and drop it to the tight end that was the tight end Bryson Hopkins, and he couldn't hold on. They've got a future with Blau. This kid can play now.
And Nebraska continues to lumber on. It may not be the prettiest bandwagon, but they're on it.
It's because it's a train for Purdue. Marshall. I thought Mike Riley had a great answer when we asked him, are you the number 8 team in the country? He said, I really don't know. We play who is on the schedule, and so far we've beaten all of them. We'll find out later.
Well, he and his staff, boy, they've been around for a while. You know, you think about what they did at Oregon State, the number of years they were ultra competitive at a program that had really never been competitive in the history of the program.
That ball's batted away. And Riley, for my money, is as nice a person, as optimistic a person as you could ever meet in this business. He's just class and quality the whole way.
But I will say the fan base here was not exactly over the moon when he was hired. I mean, I think the fan base was ready for a change from Bo Pelini. However, Mike Riley had a down year at Oregon State before he was hired. So the Cornhusker fans say, wait a minute, you got a Beaver who didn't break 500 last year. So they weren't quite sure what they were getting.
And finally, they get to him before he throws as Ross DeZuris, the defensive end, gets 4.5 sacks on the year as he dumps Blau. And Purdue can't stop the clock anymore. And Mike Riley and company will go to 7-0.
But even, you know, at the start of last year with all those heartbreak losses and a team that ended up sub 500, I think there were a lot of people wondering at Nebraska, did we hire the right guy?
They did.
Yeah, I will say he's got a lot of gas in the tank. A guy in his 60s, you meet him, he seems ageless. He's got a great twinkle in his eye. He's a good recruiter. They're really starting to get their feet underneath of him in the recruiting world at Nebraska. They clearly can coach. I mean, this is and while he was at Oregon State, and most of the staff came with him. So I think the Husker faithful feel a lot better about the change from Pelini to Riley right about now.
7-0 start for the Cornhuskers. Another huge crowd here today, over 90,000. Watch them win. And once again, our final score, Nebraska 27, Purdue 14. Go to Jerry Punch. He's with Coach Mike Riley. Doc?
Coach, at halftime, you told me you have to find a way to run the football, but it was the passing game. You know, Riley catches, Pierson-El. They gave you the spark in the second half. How would you describe the play of your offense overall today?
Oh, it was really sporadic. It was all over the place. Again, we made some plays when we absolutely had to have something going, and when we had a scoring drive, but it was pretty sporadic. We didn't have anything very consistently. I thought that Coach Parker did a nice job of prepping that team to play today in a hard circumstance. So right now we're just glad to win.
You're 7-0, but given how sloppy off and on and sporadic things happen today, what are your priorities and your concerns as you try to get ready to play Wisconsin next week?
Well, you know, we always talk about winning the games, but we also immediately when we do that, we have to go back and examine what it really looked like. I really like this team a lot, but we're not very pretty often enough. So we're just going to try to get better, Jerry. That's our deal. We got to go back and work. These kids are pretty realistic. They'll see it, and we'll go back to work and do everything we can to get ready to beat Wisconsin.
Hey, Coach, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry, and thank you, Coach.
Undefeated and not pretty is okay.
It's still undefeated, isn't
Yes,
it?
it is.
Well, don't forget, tonight at 8 Eastern, ABC Saturday Night Football has number 2 Ohio State at Penn State for Ed Cunningham and Dr. Jerry Punch and our entire ESPN ABC crew. This is Mike Patrick saying so long from Lincoln, Nebraska. Thanks for watching, everyone.